God. I need somebody out here.
What's going on?
Oh, God.
There's four people.
In my mama's house.
Who are these people that are in the house?
It's my mom and my grandpa and my Jenny and my stepdad.
Amy Villard, a daughter and mother, walked across the dew-covered lawn, expecting to exchange morning greetings. Instead, she stepped into a scene so gruesome, so unthinkable, that even seasoned detectives would later call it one of the most brutal crime scenes they had ever witnessed.
Hey, are you Ross? I'm Tyler Duncan. I'm with Anderson County Sheriff's Office. This is Steve.
How you doing? How's it going?
I got assigned the case about the homicide that happened in Pendleton in 2015.
Okay.
Is Amy here?
Sure.
So since she's the one that called 911, I think you were there also. We'd like to talk to you. If you want to come on out, we'll talk to you and then we can talk to her.
What had happened inside that trailer? Who could unleash such carnage on a family so close-knit, so seemingly ordinary? And why, despite all signs pointing to betrayal, would justice take nearly a decade to arrive?
I keep feeling like I should be waking up from a dream right now, and it's just not happening. So yeah, it's like a movie or something. It's not supposed to be real life.
Investigators now say they believe the 4 victims were murdered in this house sometime on Saturday. That's a day earlier than first thought, but family members say that just doesn't add up.
I keep feeling like I should be waking up from a dream right now, and it's just not happening. So yeah, it's like a movie or something. It's not supposed to be real life. And I understand there again, they've got a job to do, but sometimes as family members, we want answers. And we just want to know what's going on.
This is the story of secrets buried in blood, of greed wrapped in family ties, and of a Halloween night that became a lasting nightmare. Pendleton, South Carolina, charming, historic, and deceptively peaceful. The Scott family had deep roots in this community. Mike and Kathy Scott, sweethearts since junior high, had spent their golden years caring for their aging mothers, Violet Taylor and Barbara Scott. Living together on a single plot in 2 modest trailers, they formed a rare 4-generation household, a rarity in modern times, and a testament to their devotion. But devotion, as it turns out, would be no shield, especially when fractured by bitterness, jealousy, and money. In the trailer just steps away lived their daughter, Amy Villard, her new husband, Ross, and Amy's 2 children.
Now, it all started here about 12:30 this afternoon. That's when deputies from Anderson County got a call about a possible shooting. When investigators went into the home, they found the victim. Discovery was made today by Kathy Scott's daughter. Now, deputies tell me at this point they don't know how or why this happened, only that they have a lot of investigating to do.
The family dynamic was strained. Tensions had grown in recent months, fed by personal feuds, financial strain, and a troubling rift between Amy and her parents. And while outwardly the Villards ran a humble pet grooming business, behind closed doors things were beginning to unravel. This fragile family bond, once sewn tight by love, would soon be torn apart, leaving a trail of blood, mystery, and a community stunned to its core. It all began to unravel on the morning of November 2nd, 2015. Amy Villard, still in her pajamas, crossed the lawn that separated her home from her parents. The crisp autumn air was thick with silence, and something about it felt off. The dogs hadn't been out, the lights were off, and the usual bustle of morning activity inside the double-wide trailer was eerily absent. She unlocked the door and stepped into darkness. What met her eyes was carnage. Total, unfiltered carnage. 4 bodies, lifeless and bloodied. Her mother, Kathy, her stepfather, Mike, and the 2 grandmothers, Violet and Barbara. The home, once filled with laughter and family dinners, now resembled a war zone. Each victim had been stabbed, their throats viciously slashed, and in a twisted post-mortem display, each had been shot twice in the head.
I know myself and my brothers saw them right around the 6 o'clock time frame. Shortly after that,
I saw him go in the house about 8. The back door was unlocked when I came and discovered everyone.
Things that Amy has mentioned, jewelry-wise, that are not on the search warrant.
Not on search warrant,
and they have not
here.
been found in the home yet.
Amy bolted back across the lawn in shock, screaming for Ross to keep the children inside. She called 911 in a frantic, tear-filled voice. The horror was real. But something else lurked beneath her panic, something that would only come to light years later. Police arrived swiftly. Pendleton, for all its quiet charm, was no stranger to the occasional crime. But this was different.
Well, it's just tragic and something that we don't see here in Anderson County very often. The last time we had 4 people killed involving homicide was in 2007, 2008.
A quadruple homicide in a rural town with little history of violent crime? The scene was unlike anything investigators had seen, and the clues, or lack thereof, made it worse. No broken windows, no forced entry, no obvious suspects. But one thing stood out immediately. The sheer brutality of the attack suggested personal rage. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was vengeance. Intimate, methodical, cruel. As the community reeled, the investigation began. Detectives combed through the scene, family members were interviewed, and suspicion, quiet and creeping, started to form. Amy and Ross, the couple just yards away, became central to the inquiry. Their finances didn't add up. Their stories changed. And then police made a discovery that turned suspicion into something far more serious. A large sum of cash, once believed lost in the attack, appeared in Amy and Ross's possession. Not just similar bills, exact serial number matches to money Mike Scott had shown in a photo before the murders. Still, it wasn't enough. Circumstantial evidence stacked up, but there was no smoking gun, no weapon, no witness, no confession. The case would grow cold, for now. But time, as investigators would learn, doesn't erase guilt. It merely waits until the truth, no matter how deeply buried, claws its way to the surface.
The type of person who's capable of doing something like this is a very dangerous person that we need off the streets. You know, the amount of hatred to stab somebody repeatedly, to slash them, it's not something that even a normal killer would do. It takes a monster to be able to do that.
Months turned to years. The headlines faded. The initial shock softened into quiet suspicion, and the Scott family's home, once filled with generations of life, stood as a grim monument to unresolved horror. But behind closed doors, the whispers never stopped. Amy and Ross, once seen as grieving survivors, were watched with careful eyes. Their behavior didn't sit right with the community, or the detectives who never truly closed the file. They moved into a new home, remodeled the scene of the murders, even tried to sell it. They launched a new dog grooming venture, publicly played the role of devastated relatives, and posted heartfelt tributes online. Yet to those following the case closely, their tears felt off.
If you were talking directly to the person, do you want to look in the camera and just say exactly what you would say to that person?
I can't say that on TV. I'm just going to be honest, I can't say that on TV.
Their grief seemed too polished, too performative. And then there was the money. Investigators had noted inconsistencies from the start. How Amy and Ross, allegedly drowning in debt, were suddenly flush with cash.
The stuff you see on TV, that has nothing, that you can't compare that. You can't compare that.
A week after a quadruple murder, a family is still searching for answers.
We used to have family dinners right here.
For Amy Velarde,
it's just been a blur.
They say they never heard any gunshots or anything out of the ordinary from their house just around the corner.
Over $60,000 was found in their trailer shortly after the murders, matching the exact amount Mike had reportedly stored at home. Serial numbers didn't lie. This was his money. So how did it end up in their possession? Amy said it was savings. Ross claimed it was military disability funds. But former employees from their pet grooming business told another story. Unpaid wages, overdue bills, repossessed vehicles.
Ross had made a joke and said, do you want me to It was a joke at the time.
Right.
Then later I was like, holy, I'm glad I didn't say yeah.
Name you right? What was your job there?
A bather. And I was learning in the process of grooming.
When you worked for the shop, you said they were just getting started, so they weren't very successful yet.
They appeared that they were fine.
Okay.
But then I would hear arguments of them, and a lot of it was money related. When I started working for her, I seen Kathy and Mike at the grooming shop. I was in the back grooming, so I didn't hear everything that was going on, but it was something to do with money.
Okay.
Throughout working there, she'd always tell me about how she was treated growing up and all of that.
What kind of stuff would she say about how she was treated?
She told me that she was always a daddy's girl, and she said her dad he was working on a car and it crushed him, and he was placed in the hospital. And her mom decided to pull the plug. She always hated her mom for that.
The timeline of their financial struggles clashed violently with their supposed fortune. Still, no charges came, no arrests. The years dragged on, and the horror of that Halloween night threatened to be lost to memory. But justice, though slow, was never far. In 2023, nearly 8 years after the murders, a new detective took the case. With fresh eyes and relentless focus, they started again from scratch. And what they uncovered would reignite the fire beneath this long, cold case. A shoe print, an Asics sneaker, the same kind Ross was seen wearing on security footage the night of the murders, was found inside the house. Not just anywhere, but stamped in blood, laid down after the victims had bled out. Ross denied owning the shoes, but the footage said otherwise. And the shoes, gone, never recovered. Piece by piece, the puzzle began to form.
Your grandmother, and then obviously Mr. Scott and his mom. What do you remember? What can you help us with? Where should we look?
Yeah, me and my therapist talk about that a lot. Obviously, you got to know finding people doesn't really leave you in the right state of mind. Can do things to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then everything that ensued. I mean, honestly, I can barely remember the funerals.
Ross, tell us a little bit about like the relationship between, like, I guess y'all and the family. Something happened?
We got into it around 4th of July or something with Mike, but he wasn't a nice person at all. Because I told my mom, look, I don't like it. My kids can't come over there until we straighten some stuff out.
So at the time of the murders, you and your mom were back talking, everything was kind of getting patched up?
Me and my mother was not a horrible person. She was prickly.
She always hated her mom for that.
So can you tell us a little bit about that weekend when were you gone, when you got home and you found the bodies, or what happened?
He brought his mom, my mother-in-law, to do Halloween. We went down there, we spent the weekend.
What day did y'all leave to go down?
Friday night.
Friday night.
I drove myself quite crazy for about a couple of years there. And I've chosen to step away, and I've got to be healthy, and I've got kids, and I've got a life to live, and if somebody else dropped the ball on it, it's not on me anymore.
Okay. Well, if we just ask Ross a couple more things, and we'll be out of here. You remember owning a red pair of shoes? A pair of shoes? Asics Speedstar shoes. Don't recall. These Asics Speedstar shoes.
Yeah, I remember those shoes.
What happened to the shoes?
That's a good question, because I have no idea.
This is from crime scene photos, and these are confirmed to be Asics Speedstar shoes.
Okay.
Inside, and they have blood droplets on them. And interestingly enough, you're at the Quick Trip wearing those shoes the night of the murders.
Okay.
So if you never went in the house, I'm just interested to know how they ended up in the house.
I have no idea how those shoes would have had any kind of blood on them. I mean, obviously I was wearing them at a Quick Trip on the 31st.
Well, and they never found the clothes either that you were
wearing. That hoodie?
Mm-hmm.
I think here.
The fact that your shoes are inside of the house in blood, that's a big problem.
Again, I don't know where the shoes are at the moment, and I don't remember whatever happened to those particular shoes. If something were to have happened that I had done, it would be stupid for me to wear them into the house and then wear them after that. right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They were never found. So it's almost like he got rid of them.
A new theory emerged, one that connected the motive, the means, and the moment. Amy and Ross hadn't been victims. They were the architects of a family's destruction, and in December 2023, the arrest finally came. Handcuffed and charged, the couple who once lived just steps from the scene of one of the most brutal crimes in South Carolina history were now at the center of it. Amy Villard, daughter, mother, alleged mastermind. Ross Moore Villard, Marine veteran, husband, alleged executioner. After 8 long years, justice wasn't just knocking, it was breaking down the door. The arrest came swiftly, almost quietly. December 2023, 8 years after that nightmarish Halloween, Amy and Ross Villard were taken into custody at their Columbia home. No dramatic chase, no final act of defiance. Just 2 people who thought they had escaped the reach of justice, now facing its full force. They were charged with 4 counts of murder. Immediately, prosecutors moved to deny bond, citing not just the heinous nature of the crime, but the couple's financial means and the potential flight risk. Twice they applied, twice they were denied, and for the first time, the public heard it plainly. The state believed Amy Villard was the mastermind, a woman who had everything to gain: her mother's inheritance, control over the estate, and access to tens of thousands in unbanked cash. She'd allegedly used her proximity, her trust, and her role as daughter and caregiver to orchestrate the unthinkable. Ross, trained by the military and capable of carrying out violence with precision, was believed to be her weapon. The timeline, once muddled by years of speculation, now sharpened. Amy lured her parents and grandmothers into calm. She texted Ross at 8:30 p.m. on Halloween night, "10 more minutes, LOL, everyone is up now and talking." It seemed innocent, but to detectives, it was the countdown. Ross entered the home, attacked first. No forced entry, no struggle from Mike. A swift, targeted assault, 6 stab wounds to the neck. The others tried to run. Amy perhaps blocked the way, perhaps even participated. Kathy, Amy's own mother, tried to reach for her revolver. It was found near her body, empty. The final blows were not just brutal, they were methodical. The state believed Amy cleaned the scene, hid the weapons, staged a discovery, then waited over a day to call for help. By the time police arrived, the trail was cold. Evidence buried, but it wasn't over. In February 2024, just 2 months after her arrest, 2 sharpened shanks were found in Amy's jail cell. When confronted, she reportedly said, "I'm getting out of here one way or another." Whether it was a threat to others or to herself, no one knew. But it rattled everyone. Amy's lawyers pushed back. They claimed the weapons weren't hers, that the state's case was built on theories, not facts.
I would like to address the shank or whatever the weapon that was found in the cell, first of all. I've talked to my client. I've gotten her side of this. She was in a cell with 2 other people. There were 4 bunk beds in there. Ms. Velarde kept her belongings on top of a bunk bed that wasn't in use. This shank, knife, whatever it was found in a drawer. They said it was her drawer, but none of her belongings were in that drawer. I don't know how people knew when the bond hearing was, because I didn't even tell Amy when the bond hearing was. I talked to her last Friday. She did not know when the bond hearing was. I could also point out that she was moved, I think, last Thursday. Thursday? Yes, ma'am. So she was moved last Thursday from one cell to another cell. And if she had a shank with her, she had to obtain it in that very short amount of time, or she had to transport it with her from one cell to another, without a bag, without any, with her clothes and belongings all in her hands. This is not a small weapon. I've seen a picture Ms. Weiss provided. It's not a small weapon. It would be hard to hide this. And I would also venture to say, with the comment that is in the report, if she said, "I'm getting out of here one way or the other," if she did say that, that doesn't imply that she's a danger to other people. It implies she's a danger to herself.
That Amy and Ross had 8 years to flee if they were guilty, and never did. But prosecutors had something more powerful than an escape attempt. They had a story built on motive, opportunity, inconsistencies, and chilling circumstantial evidence. A story of betrayal, of greed, of a daughter who stood to gain everything from the deaths of those who raised her. And now the world waits for a jury to decide if that story ends in conviction, or if the ghosts of Halloween night will continue to haunt Pendleton unresolved. The upcoming trial promises to be one of the most anticipated in South Carolina's recent history, not only because of the crime's brutality, but because of its layered complexity. A murder that destroyed an entire household. A case built without direct witnesses, missing weapons, and only circumstantial evidence connecting two of the most unlikely suspects, a daughter and her husband. In the public eye, opinions are split. Some see Amy as a cold, calculated manipulator who used her proximity and trust to orchestrate the perfect crime. Others still hold out hope that this is all a tragic misunderstanding, that the real killer is still out there, and that Amy and Ross are simply victims of a broken investigative system. But the details are hard to ignore. The exact matching serial numbers on the cash, the missing weapons, the A6 sneakers seen in the murder house, later worn by Ross on the night of the crime, then mysteriously vanished. The long-standing tensions, the history of resentment, and Amy's shifting stories over time. And then there's the most damning thread of all, the timing. In the weeks before the murders, Amy and Ross were spiraling. Their business was failing. Their car was being repossessed. They were drowning in debt. But within days of the murders, they had cash. Lots of it. Enough to silence their debts, start over, and pretend it was life savings from the military. It wasn't. It was blood money. And in December 2023, the justice system finally caught up. Still, the prosecution faces challenges. There is no DNA, no confession, no murder weapon. What they do have is a case built on a mountain of motives and inconsistencies, on the psychology of grief performed too well, and on the shadows of two elderly women who never had a chance to fight back. As the trial date approaches, one question echoes louder than all the rest. Can justice still be served nearly a decade after the crime? Or will Amy and Ross, bound by blood and marriage, slip through the cracks one more time? For now, the town of Pendleton waits, the families grieve, and the victims, Kathy, Mike, Violet, and Barbara, remain frozen in time, their story held in the silence between screams, awaiting a verdict. And when that day comes, the truth, whatever it may be, will finally speak. What began as a quiet Halloween evening ended in unspeakable tragedy. And what followed was nearly a decade of questions. Some whispered, others shouted, by a family shattered, a community haunted, and detectives who refused to let the case die. The trial will not just determine the fate of Amy and Ross Ballard. It will decide whether trust can be shattered beyond repair, whether a daughter could really orchestrate the murder of her own mother, her stepfather, and two fragile grandmothers, whether greed can override the deepest of bonds, family. The prosecutors have laid their cards on the table. This was no random act of violence. It was intimate, strategic, devastating. They believe Amy used her voice to lull her family into a false sense of safety, while Ross used his training to carry out a swift and merciless massacre. Together they planned the attack. Together they watched the family die. But the defense will argue otherwise. That suspicion is not proof. That a family's dysfunction doesn't equate to murder. That anyone under the microscope of a cold case for long enough can begin to look guilty. In the end, it will come down to 12 strangers, jurors who must decide whether the shadows cast by money, motive, and memory are enough to convict. And as they deliberate, they'll weigh not just evidence, but the weight of legacy. 4 lives extinguished, countless others changed forever. And so the tale of Pendleton's most horrifying night closes, for now, with a community still grappling with the unthinkable and a family left in ruins. What justice looks like in the end? Well, that's for the court to decide. Until then, the silence on Refuge Road remains. As the gavel prepares to fall, the air around Pendleton thickens with anticipation. The faces of Kathy, Mike, Violet, and Barbara linger not just in photo frames and memory, but in every courtroom moment. Their lives, their love, and their final terrifying hours cry out for justice. One last time. Whatever the verdict, this story will remain etched into the heart of South Carolina. A chilling reminder that sometimes the darkest monsters don't wear masks. They sit at the family table, and when the trial ends, whether it brings closure or more questions, one truth will endure. Not all ghosts haunt from beyond the grave. Some live next door. If you found this story compelling, heartbreaking, or eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime breakdowns just like this. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a case. Stay curious, stay safe, and take care of each other. See you in the next one.
A newly released police report tonight uncovers the motive for the murder of a Western Michigan University student named Anaya Mack.
Lewis shows these text messages from Pastor Strickland to Mack, where Strickland says he's trying to give the WMU student the best she's ever had.
He's got something in his hand. Something in his hand.
On a quiet summer night in June 2018, the Kalamazoo Police Department received what seemed like a routine call, a missing persons report. A concerned friend had reached out, worried about 24-year-old Anaya Mack, a bright and promising psychology student at Western Michigan University. She had not been seen or heard from in days, an unusual absence that raised alarms among those who knew her best.
It's unlikely to just not answer her phone, it sounds like. If anything is going on, I'm like pretty much the only person that she has here besides her family. But like me and her, we have been best friends for 24. I'm only 24, but we have been best friends our entire being, basically.
When officers arrived at Hunter Ridge Apartments, where Anaya lived, they expected to find an overworked college student who had simply taken a break from social interactions.
That's the roommate's room with the TV flashing. So it looks like somebody is home at least. Maybe not. He's working on getting a phone number for a roommate right now. Hi, is this Cora? Cora, this is Anaya's best friend. Are you at home? Anaya has been missing for 2 days, to my understanding. I drove all the way here from Muskegon because yes, because the police are here as well. Is she up there? She's coming here. Okay, thank you.
But as they stepped onto the property, they noticed something strange. Inside the apartment, the unsettling discoveries continued. The bathtub was filled with water, as if someone had started a bath but never taken it. A television was left on, flickering against the walls of an empty apartment. The laundry machine was running, containing men's clothes mixed with household linens. But of Anaya herself, there was no sign.
When was the last time you were here before?
This morning I came back from work around like 6 and I went to the movies and I came back here.
When's the last time you saw her?
Not before Saturday. I left home for graduation. I graduated Saturday.
You come in.
And then this is her room right here. But someone was here today because they turned on the air and they put some clothes in the washer. So when I was gone, like I thought maybe she came. But
Have you seen her boyfriend around here?
I haven't seen anybody, honestly. But I left for the weekend, so I thought maybe she just went home.
At first glance, there were no clear signs of foul play. But as investigators would soon discover, this was no ordinary disappearance.
I think it's just a little fishy. He's the only person we haven't talked to.
Yeah, the wife. She's gonna end up calling in the morning.
I hope so. Where the hell's she been at though? Both of her cars are here. Boyfriend has no car. Her best friend, her parents, her god sister. Her pastor, she's been at work.
And from what other people have said, has the boyfriend been around her the last couple of days?
Well, he claims he hasn't seen her since Sunday either.
What about talking with her?
Yeah, I need to get that from him.
Anaya Mack was the kind of person who lit up every room she entered. With an infectious laugh, a sharp mind, and a compassionate heart, she had spent her entire life striving for excellence. In high school, she was a star student, an athlete, and an active member of various clubs. Even in college, her passion for helping others was evident. She worked at Great Lakes Alternative Research Center, assisting children with autism. Her personal life was just as full. She had a strong support system of friends and family who adored her. She was deeply involved in her church, singing in the choir and dancing with a local performance group. Those closest to her knew she was driven, hardworking, and had big dreams for her future. But Anaya also had a secret struggle. Her relationship with Donovan Lewis, a 25-year-old former community college basketball player and YMCA lifeguard. The relationship, though seemingly normal on the surface, was riddled with conflicts, insecurities, and toxic patterns. Friends had noticed red flags. Donovan could be possessive, jealous, and prone to outbursts of anger. Anaya had confided in some friends about past incidents, but no one could have predicted just how dangerous things would become.
Do you think this is an actual? Like an actual missing person?
Well, nobody knows where she's at right now. She's missing.
Like, okay, well, I mean,
do I think that she's endangered? No. Absolutely not.
Okay.
We've got nothing to lead us to believe that she's endangered other than the fact that boyfriend was an asshole at one point.
I don't know. There's still somebody coming and going from the apartment. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
But like roommate hasn't seen her in almost a week. He doesn't think anything of it.
The last time anyone had spoken to Anya was on Sunday, June 24th, 2018. That evening, she and Donovan had yet another argument, this time over messages Donovan found on her phone. These messages, sent by Pastor Strickland, a respected community leader, led Donovan to believe that Ania was cheating on him. The idea of another man in Ania's life, especially someone with power and influence, sent him into a jealous rage. Anaya, fed up with the accusations, told Donovan she wanted him to leave for good.
Like, if she was going somewhere, she would definitely pack her makeup. That's here. This looks like what would be her purse. A bag that she do her hair stuff with. That's here. Like, I'm just like, what the f***?
She began packing his belongings into a suitcase, preparing to finally end their relationship. But Donovan snapped. As tensions escalated, he punched Anaya, knocking her unconscious. Consumed by anger and betrayal, he went to the kitchen, grabbed a large butcher knife, and slit her throat before stabbing her multiple times. Realizing what he had done, he placed a garbage bag over her head, stuffed her body into the suitcase she had been using to pack his things, and zipped it shut. With her lifeless body hidden away, Donovan cleaned up the crime scene as best he could. He disposed of the mattress cover, wiped down surfaces, and removed items that could contain blood evidence. But he needed a way to permanently get rid of the body. The next day, under the cover of darkness, he carried the suitcase to a dumpster near her apartment. But as panic set in, he feared someone might find it. That night, he retrieved the suitcase, borrowed his mother's van, and drove to Comstock Creek, a secluded waterway outside the city. There, he waded into the water, sank the suitcase in the muddy depths, and left, believing his crime would never be discovered. It all began with Pastor Strickland's cryptic messages, words that ignited a dangerous spark of doubt in Donovan's mind. Now let's look into the case to find out more about the pastor's connection to Anaya Mack's tragic story. Was he just an innocent figure whose words were misunderstood, or was there something more behind them? As we uncover the clues, we might discover a truth that changes everything we thought we knew. When police first entered Anaya Mack's apartment, they were met with an unsettling combination of normalcy and strangeness. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, a struggle, or visible blood stains.
Yeah, somebody definitely came in today, for sure. Because when I left, the air wasn't on.
Does her boyfriend ever come over here and do any laundry or anything?
Yeah, they always do laundry together.
Okay.
So it's not like out of the ordinary.
Does he have a key?
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. Like somebody was here because I don't think he has a key. Usually, if he's coming, like I'll leave the door unlocked. Like if I know he's here, or like she'll leave the door unlocked. I don't even see her key.
Things officers typically looked for in missing persons or homicide cases. The apartment appeared lived in, with the television still on and the air conditioning running. But the eerie absence of Ania herself made everything feel wrong. The more officers searched, the more bizarre details they uncovered. The bathtub was full of water, as if someone had drawn a bath but never got in. The washing machine was mid-cycle, containing men's clothing and household linens, including bath mats that were missing from the bathroom floor. It was as if someone had been cleaning up or covering their tracks. but there was no clear evidence to suggest what had happened. Outside, the mystery deepened. Anaya's white 2008 Chevy Malibu was parked in the lot, missing its license plates. Strangely, another identical white Malibu sat nearby, but this one had her plates attached, despite being registered to a man named Gustavo.
Did you hear what I found out about the plates? Her car, her Malibu over there in the corner, the plates missing off of it. I found it on another Malibu, a couple spots down. It's not registered to her, which is kind of strange.
So they swapped the plates on the cars?
Yeah. There's a white Malibu that comes back to her by the VIN. No plate. The plate that belongs on it is on another Malibu. A few spots down, another white Malibu. Somebody else's name.
Gustavo fellow?
Yeah.
Both cars had flat tires, making it clear that neither had been driven in recent days. This raised a troubling question. If Ania had left, how did she go? Officers began speaking with Ania's friends, family, and neighbors, piecing together the last known moments before she vanished. They learned that no one had spoken to her since Sunday, June 24th, days before she was officially reported missing. The more people they interviewed, the more it became clear that her boyfriend, Donovan Lewis, was a person of interest. Friends described a troubled relationship filled with jealousy, control, and emotional abuse. They recounted past incidents where Donovan had been physically aggressive, including an altercation where he trapped Ania's arm in a car window and drove off with her stuck. They revealed that the couple had frequent arguments, often over Donovan's insecurities and accusations of infidelity. Despite these warning signs, there was no concrete evidence linking him to her disappearance. At least not yet. The police tried to contact Donovan, but he was nowhere to be found. Calls went unanswered, and he was not at any of his usual locations. At this point, authorities did not yet have proof of a crime, but Donovan's absence only deepened their suspicions. If he was truly worried about his missing girlfriend, why had he not reached out? Why was he avoiding law enforcement? As officers stood outside Ania's apartment discussing the strange circumstances of the case, they were blindsided by an unexpected turn of events. A man suddenly approached them from the shadows. It was Donovan Lewis. Before they could even ask him a question, he calmly looked at them and confessed, "I killed my girlfriend."
What's going on, sir?
Right here, we talked about on the way.
Just tell me now.
I killed my girlfriend.
Where is she? Where is she?
She's in the creek.
Where at? You got any weapons on you, Don?
I don't have anything, so.
You get that down. Alright, I gotta read some stuff to you real quick, okay?
It was a moment that stunned the officers. Most investigations take weeks or even months before a suspect confesses, if they ever do. But here was Donovan standing before them, admitting to murder without hesitation. It was as if he had already made peace with his fate, knowing there was no way out. Officers immediately placed him under arrest, but their work was far from over. They still had one major question left to answer. Where was Anaya?
Is she in the trunk of one of these cars?
No. He told us that he's in creeks around the east side. So we're thinking maybe on the east side of the town soon.
In the creek?
In a creek.
Okay. Well, that took a twist.
Yeah, I'm thinking that way at all.
The moment Donovan Lewis calmly confessed to killing Anaya Mack, the investigation shifted from a missing persons case to a homicide. The officers, momentarily stunned by his blunt admission, quickly sprang into action.
He chooses to spontaneously utter things after the fact, then that's him, okay? You've already told him twice now, and then, you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk, those kind of things, okay? When you go back in, move his chair to the other side of the table, okay? And just tell him, I don't want you in that corner, I'd like you closer to me. My sergeant's gonna know all about safety.
So stay where I'm at?
Stay where you're at. Put him over in that little corner so we can see him.
Okay.
Despite his sudden confession, police couldn't simply take his word for it. A murder confession, while significant, is only as strong as the evidence backing it up. They needed to know where Ania's body was, how he killed her, and whether he was telling the whole truth.
What's been going on?
Just had a rough week last week.
The car had the pastor behind her. Back tire went flat.
Oh, is that what happened?
It was a slow leak, so you had to keep refilling it and refilling it. And then on Sunday, when we went to my family lake house, she wanted to go to church. She went outside, and the front tire was flat.
Think somebody's doing it? Or you think the car's just old and the tires are bad, or what?
I don't know. Whatever she got going on with the pastor.
Oh.
And when she got the car, she told me the mechanic came to pick her up, and she told me, you know, she got a new car, we got a loaner car from the church. Recently, she told me, after I kind of gave her, I told her I want to have a sit down with her because he ended up picking her up and apparently threatened her.
The pastor threatened her over the car, or why?
Because she was using them. She told him she would tell. And he said, you can't do this to me.
How was he using her? Like they had a relationship or something going on, you mean?
I went through her phone.
Who's her pastor? What church she goes to?
Second Baptist, right there by the bus station.
Okay.
Across the street. And I went through her phone. She tussled with me about her phone. You know, she died on her phone. Kind of got in like a fetal position with all her knees in her hands and saw that I was a pastor and saw what he said. And, you know, she kind of just gave up. And gave her the phone. And all the time she was laughing. Grinning. When she gave me the phone, she was grinning and laughing. Because you know, okay, if I do make that accusation, she could have that reaction that she had.
Donovan, however, seemed oddly cooperative. He didn't ask for a lawyer, nor did he hesitate to answer their questions. He described in detail how he had stuffed her into a suitcase, transported her in his mother's van, and sank her body in the muddy depths of the creek. Despite his admission, investigators weren't willing to take everything at face value. It was possible that he was hiding key details or leaving out elements of the crime. They also needed physical evidence to support his claims. The next step was clear: recovering Anaya's body and verifying every part of Donovan's story.
It's a little bit sloped right there. Now, Donovan, did you have her on this side of the guardrail first? In a suitcase, or did you bring her all the way down here?
All the way down.
All the way down here? Okay, so you wheel her in the suitcase all the way down here? Okay. And you park back up by where the SUV is? And how do you where the white truck is? 10 feet that way. And how do you get her in the water? You just threw her in the suitcase into the water. Okay, and this is the right spot? Okay, where do you want these guys to go? Straight. Straight down?
Switch sides. The sun's not in my
Sure,
camera.
no problem.
We're on camera, guys. Here we.
Yep, we're on camera.
Suitcase. Evidence.
All right. Would you want to get it closer?
You guys open confirm already?
Yeah.
Which way turn around? I think all the way out, and then probably hand the rope back to someone in the back.
Yep. I'll tie you off on the way.
All right.
The first major breakthrough came when police followed Donovan's directions to Comstock Creek. A specialized search and recovery team, equipped with boats, sonar technology, and divers, combed the area. Hours passed before they finally located a large, heavy suitcase submerged in the water, weighed down by mud and debris. Inside, they found Ania's lifeless body, just as Donovan had described. The discovery was heartbreaking, but critical. It meant they had irrefutable proof of the crime. Forensic pathologists conducted a thorough autopsy, which revealed multiple stab wounds and a deep slash across her throat, confirming homicide as the cause of death. The examination also contradicted some of Donovan's claims. While he insisted that he had attacked her in a moment of rage, the injuries suggested a prolonged, violent struggle. Some of the wounds were defensive, meaning Anaya had fought for her life. This evidence undermined any attempt at a self-defense claim and painted a picture of a premeditated killing. As the prosecution prepared for trial, a disturbing subplot emerged. Investigators uncovered that Donovan had made previous attempts to cover up the crime, including cleaning Anaya's apartment, disposing of evidence, and misleading her friends about her whereabouts. He had even tried to maintain the illusion that Anaya was still alive. In the days after her murder, he had used her phone to send messages to friends and family, possibly to buy himself time before suspicion fell on him. These details shattered any argument that this was a crime of passion committed in the heat of the moment.
Hello, I'm looking to speak with Pastor Strickland.
This is he.
Hi there, this is Sergeant Charles Trepa, Kalamazoo Public Safety. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, sir?
Not too bad, sir. I got a voicemail message from Chief Boyce and saying that you had some questions about an automobile.
Yes, sir. One of the automobiles that was taken related to the Anaya Mack murder.
Yes, sir.
One of those vehicles belongs to my wife.
Okay.
And we are trying to recover it.
However, the story took another shocking turn when Pastor Strickland, the man whose messages had sparked Donovan's jealous rage, was exposed for unrelated criminal activity. Months after Anya's murder, law enforcement uncovered disturbing allegations against him, revealing that he had been involved in crimes involving minors within his congregation. While he was never directly implicated in Ania's case, the discovery of his crimes added another layer of betrayal to an already devastating story. A man who was supposed to be a leader in the community had been abusing his position of power for his own selfish, immoral desires. Strickland was later arrested and pleaded guilty in 2023 to charges related to and the exploitation of minors. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison, a sentence that many viewed as far too lenient given the nature of his crimes. His downfall, though separate from Anya's murder, only deepened the tragedy surrounding the case, one that seemed to expose corruption, betrayal, and the hidden darkness lurking beneath the surface of seemingly normal lives.
We have video of the ending of a manhunt for a suspected murderer who escaped from the Kalamazoo County Jail.
His name's Donovan Lewis. He's now back in custody. He's charged with open murder in the June death of Anaya Mack. The two had been dating. He told police that he was jealous of her relationship with a local high-profile pastor. Police say that's why he killed her and then put her body in a suitcase.
While awaiting trial in Kalamazoo County Jail, Donovan shocked authorities once again by orchestrating a daring escape attempt. During recreational time, he took advantage of a brief lapse in security, scaling 2 15-foot fences topped with razor wire. He suffered deep cuts from the razor wire but managed to reach the outer perimeter before officers caught up to him just 30 minutes later. His escape attempt not only added additional criminal charges, but also revealed his willingness to go to extreme lengths to avoid facing justice. Facing overwhelming evidence, Donovan chose to accept a plea deal. Initially charged with first-degree murder, which carried a mandatory life sentence, he instead pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, reducing his sentence to 25 to 40 years in prison. The plea deal, though controversial, spared Ania's family the agony of a lengthy trial and guaranteed that Donovan would be held accountable. During sentencing, Donovan finally spoke in court, expressing regret for his actions.
I can imagine the hurt that I caused. I don't even know the beginning. I just want to say sorry to the family. That's all.
When I sentence you, Mr. Lewis, I balance the principles of punishment, rehabilitation, protection of society, as well as deterrence. Particularly, you being cooperative, taking full responsibility, not minimizing your role in this, and expressing a level of remorse. A decent education. There are a lot of good things here that you had developed over your life, Mr. Lewis, and you threw all of that out the window back on June 24th. Anaya Mack didn't deserve any of these things. She didn't deserve to be hit to begin with. She didn't deserve to be put unconscious. She didn't deserve to be stabbed and murdered. And her body didn't deserve to be treated less than garbage. And all of that happened because of you, nobody else.
Anaya's family delivered powerful victim impact statements describing the unbearable loss they suffered. The judge, while bound by the plea agreement, did not mince words. Before handing down the sentence, he told Donovan, "You took the life of a young woman who had everything ahead of her. No sentence I give you will ever undo that. But you will spend the next decades behind bars, and that is the justice you deserve." With the trial concluded, Donovan was led away in handcuffs, sentenced to decades in prison, but Ania's family would never get her back. The justice system had played its role, but the emotional scars left behind would last forever. As Donovan Lewis was led away in handcuffs, sentenced to decades behind bars, the courtroom remained filled with an overwhelming sense of loss. Justice had been served in the legal sense, but for Ania Mack's family and friends, no amount of prison time could bring her back.
How do you feel now with the sentence?
I feel good because my sister is okay with the sentence, and so I'm okay with it.
You spoke about forgiveness, not wanting to take pain for pain, but hoping that he can live with what he's done. Can you talk about that?
Well, he have to live with it for the rest of his life. You know, whether he was sincere with what he said in the courtroom or not, he has to live with it. And I hope he can. And I meant that. I haven't forgiven him. My sister, I haven't. And in time, I'm sure I will, but not now.
The murder of Ania Mack was more than just another crime story. It was a sobering reminder of how quickly jealousy, insecurity, and possessiveness can turn into something deadly. It was a case that highlighted the hidden dangers of toxic relationships, the warning signs that so many victims ignore or rationalize, and the devastating consequences of ignoring them. Her story became a testament to the fact that every red flag matters. Every toxic relationship has the potential to turn deadly, and every life lost to domestic violence is one too many. Ania Mack should still be here, and while justice was served in the legal sense, true justice would have been a world where Ania was still alive, still pursuing her dreams, and still spreading joy to everyone who knew her. In her absence, those who loved her continued their mission to make sure that her death was not in vain and that her story could save others from the same fate. If you found this story informative and eye-opening, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread awareness about domestic violence and toxic relationships.
Native, has the DPW.
Is he in the floor? Oh, shoot. You said you see blood? Go run back. Get EMS out here. Oh boy. There's a lot of blood.
In the quiet, tree-lined town of Hudson, Ohio, where neighbors greet each other on morning walks and colonial homes sit in serene order, Todd Morgan, a 41-year-old professor and father, was never late. Never. But on April 19th, 2023, the reliable rhythm of his parental devotion skipped a beat, setting into motion an investigation that would unearth a world far removed from faculty meetings and playground visits. Todd's life at first glance was the picture of success. A business and finance professor at the prestigious Cleveland State University, he held multiple degrees and had returned to his alma mater to inspire the next generation. Known for his intellectual charm and deep love for his two children, Todd was respected in academia and adored by his family.
I was wondering if I'd be able to request a wellness check on someone. Okay, what's going on? So my daughter was supposed to be picked up by her father today. And I got a call from the school that she was still at the school, so I ended up picking her up. They tried to contact him. I tried to call him a couple times and haven't received anything back. And what's his name? Todd Morgan.
Yet as police officers stepped into his silent home that evening, the image began to fracture.
Good.
2015 Porsche, black in colors, is Todd Morgan from that address. Valid native, has the DPW.
Is he in the floor? Oh, shoot. You said you see blood?
Much like the broken back door through which they entered. They found him lying there, alone, unmoving, dressed in a robe, blood pooled around his head.
Oh boy. There's a lot of blood. Party looks to be, might have fell. Oh, wow.
Nearby, shell casings glistened like sinister breadcrumbs, but no weapon could be found. Something was off.
Hey, Sarge, are we... Say, it's pretty bad in there.
Okay, so
Yeah, there's shell casings in the house all over, but
okay.
there's no weapon.
The chaos in the master bedroom, the condom wrappers, the open bottles, none of it made sense in the context of a loving father's life. And then came the piggy bank in a child's room, overturned as if someone had been looking for something or staging a scene.
You found money?
Change. Piggy bank back over.
It would take hours and then days for the picture to come into sharper focus. And what emerged was a web of secrets and shadows, of love turned transactional, of two lives intersecting through a dating app and ending in bloodshed. The tipping point came quietly. A 911 call made at 7:21 a.m. from Todd's phone. No one spoke, but the call was real, and it placed someone at the scene moments after the fatal shots rang out. An accident? Maybe.
You heard the
two shots. I'm assuming. I don't know. And then I thought someone was banging on something, and then a little pause, and then four more.
As detectives peeled back the layers of Todd's private life, they discovered a trail that led not to a bitter ex-wife or vengeful colleague, but to a woman named Terriana Pacelli. Young, mysterious, with a history. Her name surfaced again and again, in Todd's phone records, on Cash App transactions, even in her own online searches. Who was she? A companion? A professional visitor? A jilted partner? She claimed not to know him, had never been to Hudson.
You ever been to Hudson before? I don't recall. Okay. What about around there? Go to a lot of places. Okay. But you can't recall being in Hudson? No. Okay.
Had no idea why her phone dialed 911.
So, your phone, why would it dial 911 on April 19th in the morning, at April 19th around 7:22 in the morning? My phone? Yeah. I don't know. Okay. I don't know why my phone would call. I didn't call nobody. You didn't call 911? No, I did not. Okay.
Or why her DNA was on items in his home.
Your DNA is inside of that house. Black and Miles are inside of that house.
But surveillance footage said otherwise.
I don't know how to work this thing. But
okay, so that's the car.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to see anything for that or whatever.
Okay, I'll give this back to you. I'll go tell.
Okay, I'm not sure how to.
Yeah.
So did the digital footprints, the Facebook photos, the change of phone number days after the murder. There was no blood on her hands, just data, and that was enough.
We've got a lot of information. We have DNA evidence, we have video, we have phone calls, we have Bumble chat messages. Okay, we have shell casings, we have shoe prints. We've got a lot of stuff that is...
But what truly haunts isn't just the methodical buildup of evidence or the tragedy of a life cut short. It's the silence of that little girl, still waiting at school, staring down the driveway long after everyone else had gone home. What did she feel at that moment? Confusion? Abandonment? Or did some part of her impossibly understand that something terrible had happened? The community that once saw Todd Morgan as a pillar would now remember him as the center of a chilling true crime story. And behind the courtroom statements and forensic facts lies the aching question that this documentary tries to unravel. How well do we ever really know the people we love and those they invite into their lives? Stay with us as we piece together the truth, one chilling clue at a time. Hudson, Ohio, a community carved out of serene ambition and suburban pride, where families buy oversized homes with wraparound porches and oversized dreams. Crime here doesn't happen, or at least it's not supposed to. So when Dr. Todd Morgan, a well-known professor and father of two, failed to collect his daughter from school one Wednesday afternoon in April 2023, it wasn't just unusual, it was unthinkable. Todd was many things to many people. At Cleveland State University, he was Dr. Morgan, the finance professor with a sharp mind and a growing reputation. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail, he picked up his nearly 5-year-old daughter from school, rain or shine. But that day, the minutes stretched into hours, and the school receptionist eventually picked up the phone. She dialed Mary, Todd's ex-girlfriend and mother of his daughter. The girl was still waiting. Mary didn't panic at first. Maybe Todd got stuck in a meeting. Maybe he forgot, unlikely as that was. She drove to the school herself, picked up their daughter, and tried calling Todd. No answer. His phone rang but went to voicemail. A wellness check was the natural next step. Hudson police responded promptly. Officers Peggy and Bowen were dispatched to Todd's home on West Streetsboro Street, a large, comfortable house he had purchased not long after his return to Ohio. From the outside, nothing seemed amiss. The porch light flicked on. His luxury SUV sat silently in the driveway. But the long gravel driveway gave way to something officers felt but didn't speak of. A quiet too quiet, the kind that wraps around a scene of unspeakable things. As they made their way around back, they spotted it. Blood. And then, through the glass door, the silhouette of a man, lying on the floor, motionless.
Oh boy. There's a lot of blood. Party looks to be, I might have fell. Crap. Oh, open. Oh, wow.
Inside, the sight was grim. Todd's lifeless body lay near the back entrance, dressed in only a bathrobe, his head resting in a pool of dried blood. Nearby were shell casings, one here, another there, but no gun. Was it under him? Did he fall on it?
It's a bullet casing here, which that's weird. Why is there a bullet casing here?
Had he taken his own life? At first glance, the wound near his temple hinted at, but the lack of a weapon and the positioning of the casings began to whisper a darker truth.
I don't see a weapon. That's why I'm thinking something else. A weapon of any kind. That's weird. Why is there? It makes me think someone shot him. We're gonna have to call the detectives out. Hey, Sarge, you wanna? Are we? Say it's pretty bad in there. Yeah, there's shell casings in the house all over, but there's no weapon. He's been sitting there for a while. That blood's dried up.
Okay.
Can you tell me
What's that?
It looks weird.
The house told its own story, one detail at a time. In the master bedroom, open condom wrappers and bottles of alcohol painted a picture far removed from the scholarly, fatherly image Todd projected. In a child's bedroom, a piggy bank was overturned.
You found money?
Change. Piggy bank knocked over.
But nothing else disturbed. Odd for a break-in. Nothing was missing.
Well, if it was a robbery, the house would be more ransacked, right? Guess that one you're in now?
His laptops, tablets, even his Porsche, untouched. No forced entry at the front, but the back door appeared broken, or forced, or staged. The deeper investigators dug, the more Todd's double life emerged.
The back door looks like it was kicked from the inside. I have not gone inside the house. So he's laying on his back with a gunshot wound to the head at the back door, and it looks like the door was forced out, as in out to the door. So I'd like for somebody to come out and take a look. There's shell casings all over the place, and just to figure out exactly what's going on.
He wasn't just the doting father and learned professor. He had secrets, custody battles, a past marred by infidelity, a struggle with alcohol monitored through an interlock device in his car. He was fighting to hold it all together, even as parts of his personal life spiraled into chaos.
So he's required to do an iSober device.
What's that?
It's to, he'll breathe into it and it reads whether he's had a drink or not.
For the vehicle?
Just any.
Oh, wow, anything at all, okay.
And the last report I got was from yesterday at 7 o'clock in the morning.
You get reports from
Yeah,
the
it
ISO?
emails
No
the
kidding.
results.
So you got a result for that test yesterday?
Yes, I can pull it up.
Does it give numbers or just say if it's positive or negative for alcohol?
It does give numbers.
Okay.
What's this test called again?
iSober device.
But even these red flags weren't enough to connect the dots, until a whisper from technology turned into a scream. A 911 call made from Todd's phone, logged at exactly 7:21 a.m. that morning. No words were spoken, just the call. Investigators knew it had to mean something. Had Todd tried to call for help? Or had the killer accidentally triggered the emergency alert in a panic? That one detail cracked the case open, and then came the name, Tariana Pichelle. She had never been seen in Hudson, never publicly linked to Todd, but the evidence was already stacking against her. Digital, forensic, financial. Todd's cell phone traveled with hers in the aftermath. A $50 cash app transfer from Todd to Tariana hours before his death. Surveillance footage of a silver car parked by his Porsche, gone by 7:30 a.m. The timing, the movements, the phone data, it all lined up too perfectly. And yet Hudson wasn't ready. The town, the family, even Todd's own children, none could have imagined what lay beneath the surface of a seemingly normal day. A beloved professor was dead, a mysterious woman was on the run, and somewhere inside all that silence, someone was trying to cover their tracks. The truth was clawing its way out.
Then I saw somebody come out of the house to the car that was next to the Porsche. They were in the car. I mean, it was there.
The Porsche?
No, it was next to the Porsche.
Okay.
And it was there when I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock. You know, as I walked.
The car was already there.
The car was already there. The person was due. Yeah, when I woke up.
Okay.
But at 7:15, 7:20, I heard. And then I saw someone come out of the house, go to the car, opened up the car, was there for a while, and then took something back into the house, like a package or a box, it looked like.
Okay.
And then came back out, not running, but walking fast.
Quick paced?
Yes.
And what it revealed would shake the core of this quiet town forever. The crime, when laid bare, was brutal, not only in its execution, but in its cold calculation. Dr. Todd Morgan wasn't just killed, he was hunted inside his own home, ambushed in a space where he should have felt safest. The nature of the wounds, 7 gunshots, 2 of them instantly fatal, spoke of rage or intent. This wasn't random, it wasn't impulsive, it was deliberate. The first officers on the scene could barely comprehend what they were stepping into. Blood had dried in thick, crusted streaks near the base of the back door. The house, oddly enough, wasn't ransacked. That was the first sign that this wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Flat-screen TVs remained fixed to the wall. Laptops and tablets were untouched on the kitchen counter. Even Todd's Porsche SUV, keys in the hallway, hadn't been touched. But what chilled the responding officers was the silence. No struggle, no witness, just Todd, sprawled out, eyes open to the ceiling, a dressing gown curled slightly at his side, and bullet casings, metal echoes of whatever madness had erupted that morning. Inside the home, subtle chaos ruled. Upstairs in the master bedroom, the bed looked slept in, sheets crumpled at the edges, pillows askew. A collection of open condom wrappers littered the floor beside a bottle of tequila in a half-finished glass. A drawer hung open awkwardly, revealing lingerie and a gun holster. Yet no weapon in sight. Police scoured every inch, even prying into the closets and attic access, but the murder weapon had vanished. In the children's rooms, everything appeared untouched, except for one detail. In the corner of his daughter's room, her pink ceramic piggy bank had been knocked over. Coins and crumpled bills scattered like forgotten confetti. Not stolen, just disturbed.
change. Piggy bank knocked over.
Well, if it was a robbery, the house would be more ransacked, right?
Okay.
Just that one you're in now?
It was as if someone had deliberately overturned it, perhaps looking for something, or maybe just creating a distraction. At the foot of the staircase, another bullet casing was found. That's when detectives began to piece it together. Whoever fired those shots had moved through the house. This wasn't a stationary execution, it was a pursuit. The killer had followed Todd, room to room, stalking him, waiting for the final shot. Most of the bullets struck his upper body, one embedded in his clavicle. Another fired from extremely close range. So close the skin around the entry point showed stippling from the muzzle blast. Whoever pulled the trigger stood face to face with him. The back door told its own story. The frame had been splintered from the inside. A portion of the lock had blown out and landed several feet away on the deck outside. Blood spatter trailed from inside the doorway and down the steps to the driveway. Footprints, thick, heavy boot prints, tracked through it all. Officers checked the boots of every first responder. None matched.
Let me double check Sean's tread.
Unless when Sean walked back out, he did, but we both went over the water.
All right. Lee, just for good measure, bottom of your feet. All right, definitely. Can I see your tread on your shoes? Yeah, definitely not you. Okay. There's footprints all over in the blood, and it looks like boots. So.
I don't think it's Cassie's there because her tread's.
Yeah, nobody. It matches nobody's.
Can I see the bottom of your boot real quick, just to see? No. Yeah. Can I see the bottom of your shoe? Please.
I try to tippy-toe around.
We just have there's.
The prints belonged to someone else. This was no suicide, no accident. This was murder. And then came the 911 call, the phantom ring from Todd's own phone, just minutes after witnesses reported hearing gunfire.
It had to be 7.
At 7:20.
Yeah, it all happened within a couple
That
of
was
minutes.
you heard
the two shots. I'm assuming. I don't know. And then I thought someone was banging on something, and then a little pause, and then 3 more, 4 more.
At 7:21 a.m., dispatch received a call from his number. No one spoke. No sounds, just dead air. But it was real, and it was damning. Police now believe the killer may have unintentionally triggered the iPhone's emergency SOS feature, 5 rapid presses of the power button, and in doing so, left a trail. Back at HQ, detectives turned to Todd's digital life, his texts, his emails, his dating apps. That's when they found her, Terriana Pacello, a slim, soft-featured woman with long black hair and a social media presence that didn't match the life she claimed to lead. Terriana had met Todd on Bumble. At first, the messages seemed flirtatious, but quickly the tone shifted. Screenshots revealed negotiations, payment terms, and service windows. She wasn't just on a date, she was transactional, and she was scheduled to be there that morning. Cash App confirmed it. Todd had sent her $50 at 6:58 a.m. A second, much larger payment, $1,000, was attempted 23 minutes later, but it required facial verification. A notification pinged on his lock screen. He never authenticated it. At the same time, Ring doorbell footage from a neighbor captured a silver crossover-style vehicle pulling into Todd's driveway at approximately 6:45 a.m. It left by 7:30.
I don't know how to work this thing, but
Okay, so that's the car.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to see anything for that or whatever.
Okay. I'll give this back to you. I'll go tell.
Okay, I'm not sure how to.
Yeah.
And then it jumps to 7:30 and it's gone.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
So what time is that? Right.
6:50.
50.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 7. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, the next spot on here is 7:30, so there's a gap.
Okay.
And then it's gone at 7:30.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay.
In that brief window, the murder happened. A light-colored vehicle, a shadowy figure, long hair, a fast walk, a box in hand.
So then I saw somebody come out of the house with long hair, to the shoulders. I couldn't even tell you if it was male or female, to be honest with you. It looked like a smaller frame, not a big person. Got into a little car. I wouldn't say the car was champagne color. He said it was bluish. So there you go for our perspective of what it was. There are cars. Todd, from what I know, he's only been here less than a year. He has 2 children from different mothers. They're coming and going all the time, dropping kids off.
Oh, sure.
And there's always like a Jeep there from somebody he knows. And I don't know if it's one of the mothers or not, but it's a newer Jeep. Okay. This was a car that I'd never seen.
You've never seen that car?
No. And that person came out, like Gene said, grabbed something from the car. I thought it was more like a package. He thought it was like a box. Again, we weren't putting anything in perspective. It's just what we walked as passing by. And then the person took something back into the house and then came back out and then just drove away.
The physical evidence inside the home was equally damning. A black and mild cigar on the kitchen counter tested positive for Tariana's DNA. So did the open condoms in the master bedroom. One of the shell casings was linked to a previous unsolved homicide in Cleveland. The murder weapon, still missing, matched a gun once associated with her. What began as a wellness check had now become a manhunt. Tariana wasn't just a name in Todd's contact list. She was now the prime suspect in his execution-style murder. And though she would claim ignorance and deny knowing him, every step she took that morning had already been recorded by satellites, by cash apps, by doorbell cameras. She thought she had slipped away, but technology never forgets. The investigation into Todd Morgan's murder took shape with an urgency that only comes when the evidence refuses to sit still. Every hour brought a new lead, and each one pointed in the same direction, toward a woman who claimed she'd never even heard of the victim. But the digital trail she left behind told a very different story. Detectives zeroed in on Tariana Pichelle. Her name surfaced not only through cash app transactions, but through IP addresses linked to Todd's Wi-Fi network and through metadata from search queries on her phone. A search warrant revealed that in the weeks leading up to the murder, Tariana had visited multiple articles about Todd's career and home. And on the morning of April 19th, the same day Todd was killed, she searched, "Can police track your phone if you take the SIM card out?" She tried to stay invisible, but each move she made illuminated the path to her doorstep. Tracking her down, however, proved challenging. Her phone pinged last near the intersection of Interstate 271 in Macedonia, moving at over 60 miles per hour. Exactly 6 minutes after Todd's phone registered the 911 call. The 2 devices traveled the same route, a chilling confirmation that the killer didn't just take his life. They took his phone with them. When officers arrived at the listed address in Akron, a man answered, older, calm, and immediately dismissive. "She doesn't live here," he said. "You think I'd let some girl stay here with my grandkids upstairs?" But his answers raised more questions than they silenced.
How we doing? Was she in trouble? Well, you talk to her. Oh, okay. I definitely let her know. You tell her to call the Hudson Police Department? Hudson Police Department, Hudson, Ohio. Okay, I sure will.
What friend she's staying with?
I don't know, man. It's some friend. I mean, she's a friend. You know, look like a little girlfriend. You know, she's a young girl. I'm an older man, and I'm just getting my grandkids upstairs in the bed. Y'all think y'all gonna just walk through my dog house? Hell no. Ain't no Tariana in here.
Apparently he's mad.
What's that?
She's with one of her girlfriends in Garden Valley.
Getting nailed to your house.
Yeah, how far is that from here?
It's not far.
Oh, we could follow you over there.
He refused to let them search the home. Said she was staying with a friend. Wouldn't say where. The detectives left with nothing except suspicion. Still, they pushed forward. Phone data, pulled from cell towers and GPS logs, led them to an apartment complex in Valley. There, parked in plain sight, was a silver Ford Taurus X, matching the description given by neighbors and seen in ring footage near Todd's home. The back plate was missing. Inside, police found receipts, trace evidence, and, more damningly, signs of an attempted escape plan. Someone had packed in a hurry. When Tariana was finally taken into custody, she remained stone-faced. She denied everything. "Todd Morgan? Doesn't ring a bell," she said. "Hudson? Never been."
Okay, You ever been to Hudson before?
Maybe so. I don't recall.
Okay. What about around
I go to a lot of places.
Okay. But you can't recall being in Hudson?
No.
Okay. So, your phone, why would it dial 911 on April 19th in the morning, at April 19th around 7:22 in the morning?
My phone?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why my phone would call. I didn't call nobody.
You didn't call 911?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I don't know. Did they say I called? I didn't call.
Yeah, we got your phone number, and we attempted to call back that morning. We could get an answer.
But the investigators were ready. They laid the evidence on the table, piece by piece. They showed her the GPS data placing her phone at Todd's address from midnight until after 7 a.m. on April 19th.
So here's what's interesting about these two photos. Right? Okay, these two photos were actually on your phone.
On my phone?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they weren't on my phone.
You actually typed in a search for this guy, and you viewed this image on your phone. You also did a search for 320 West Streetsville Street, and you viewed this image on your phone. Gary, we're giving you an opportunity here to talk to us. We need to know what happened.
Okay, and I'm telling you, I don't know what's going on. What do you have? I don't know what's going on.
Who's that?
They showed the Ring doorbell video of a light-colored car pulling away. They presented images of the shoe prints found in blood, traced back to a pair of Nike sneakers she had worn in a Facebook photo posted just 2 months earlier. Then came the DNA matches.
We've got a lot of information. We have DNA evidence, we have video, we have phone calls, we have Bumble chat messages. Okay, we have shell casings, we have shoe prints. We've got a lot of stuff that is a lot of good evidence here. Okay, This is your opportunity to talk to us about it. What's that?
I really don't know what you want me to say.
I want to know what happened. We want to know what happened. We have a lot of questions. We want to know what happened.
The black and mild cigar, the condom wrappers. Both placed her inside the home, inside Todd's private, intimate space. And then came the clincher. Cash app logs showing not one, but 2 payments. The first for $50, the second an attempted transfer for $1,000 interrupted when Todd failed to verify it. Just minutes later, he was dead. The implication was staggering. Was this a transaction gone wrong? A robbery turned murder?
So, Todd Morgan sent you $50 in the morning of April 19th.
I don't know.
Okay, but he did. So, what I want to ask you is, there was another payment. About 23 minutes later, there was a $1,000 payment that was sent from Todd Morgan to Black Beauty. And you confirm that Black Beauty, this Cash App is you. That's you, obviously, in that picture. So he sent you $1,000. Now, we go back to a $50 payment. You say, guys send you random $50 every now and then. Okay, you guys send you random $1,000 payments?
No.
Okay, so
but it can happen.
It could happen.
It could happen.
Or had she come with the intent to kill all along? But even as the evidence mounted, Terriana refused to break. She questioned the legitimacy of every log, denied her own messages, and shrugged off the photos of her car, her searches, her fingerprints. Could have been anyone, she said. That's not proof.
Okay, so the morning of April 19th, here's what we have. We have this Cash App payment, right? I went through for $50. We have another Cash App payment that was 23 minutes later for $1,000. We have this vehicle leaving Todd Morgan's house at around 7:23 in the morning on April 19th. You said that's your car. Have your phone at 320 West Streetsboro Street on April 19th at 7 in the morning. You actually have your phone at that address after midnight on April 19th, which looks like it was there overnight. It's not possible. Your DNA is inside of that house. Black and Miles are inside of that house. The kind of shipments that are inside the house that match shoes that you're wearing in Facebook photos.
What she didn't know, or pretended not to, was that investigators had also connected her to an earlier unsolved homicide in Cleveland. In 2012, a man was shot in his apartment. The bullet casings left behind? A perfect ballistic match to the ones found in Todd Morgan's kitchen. At the time, Terriana had blamed an ex-boyfriend, but now her name was in the center of 2 murders, not just one. Back in Hudson, as news broke of the arrest, the community stood stunned. Todd's family, already shattered, now faced a new kind of anguish. Not just grief, but betrayal. He had trusted her, let her into his home, paid her, and for that, he had been executed. Still, no confession came. Not then, not ever. Terriana remained silent, cool, unreadable, until the day of her trial. And then, as the courtroom filled with family members, friends, and cameras, she made her first and only admission. She was guilty. The courtroom was silent. Not the respectful quiet of legal decorum, but the heavy stillness of grief, of tension, of finality. On one side, the family of Dr. Todd Morgan sat in a row, eyes hollow from months of agony. On the other, Terriana Pacelli, no longer the woman in online photos with a sly smile and confident posture, but a defendant in shackles, her face unreadable, her gaze fixed ahead. It had been nearly a year since Todd's murder, but for his loved ones, the timeline stood still. Every morning still began with the same thought. He should be here. The plea deal had arrived just days before the trial was set to begin. 20 years to life for murder, an additional 3 for the firearm charge. 23 years minimum. It was a compromise that offered certainty and spared the family the torment of watching the evidence unfold all over again in front of a jury. The prosecutor detailed the state's case one last time for the record. The emergency 911 call from Todd's phone. The forensic match to shell casings from another murder. The DNA on the cigar. The $50 and failed $1,000 payments. The phone GPS trail. The attempt to wipe her presence by changing numbers and devices. All of it layered into a timeline too precise to ignore. The murder was not spontaneous, he said. It was targeted, timed, and cold. Then came the impact statements. Mary, Todd's former partner and the mother of his daughter, stood at the podium. Her voice trembled but held firm.
Todd was also a loving father. Since his murder, my daughter's life has been irrevocably altered. At just 6 years old, she's at one of the most impressionable stages of her life. She was only 4 when she waited at school for her dad to pick her up, not understanding why he never came. When I arrived, she was confused and desperately wanted to call him, but each call went unanswered. I had to explain to her that her daddy wouldn't be coming back because someone had hurt him. I watched her curl up in my arms, hiding her face as she processed this unimaginable loss.
My daughter is 6. She still asks if her daddy can come back, she began. She was 4 years old when she waited outside her school, wondering why he hadn't come. He never missed a pickup. That day I had to tell her he never would again. She paused, her throat tightening. And how do you explain that to a child? That her father's life was taken by a stranger? For what? A few $100? A moment of anger? Then Todd's mother, Sandy, spoke. She clutched a printed photo of Todd as a boy and held it up for the court to see. This is my son. Before the degrees, before the job, before any of the mistakes, he was just my little boy. He told me just weeks before he died that he was broken. But he was trying. He was meditating. He was exercising. He was trying to live better, be better. Her voice cracked. And just when I thought he was coming back to himself, just when I thought he'd made it out of the darkness, he was taken, brutally, meaninglessly, by someone who didn't even know him. The courtroom listened, unmoving.
I'm Todd's mom. I always will be. Todd's not here to tell his story. Only God, Todd, and you know the truth of what happened on April 19. All I know, he was brutally murdered by you, and he basically died for nothing. You didn't even know him. Your actions to take my son's life changed my life forever. It's changed all of our lives. Even more so, you took a father from two beautiful children. They were his world, and he was theirs.
Even the judge's face was heavy with sorrow. Finally, Tariana was given the chance to speak. She rose slowly, her hands cuffed, voice low and soft.
To his family, I'm very sorry, and I hope that one day that you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. That's it.
I'm sorry, she said, barely audible. To the family, I hope someday you can forgive me. Then she sat back down. That was all. No explanation, no motive, no answers. The judge delivered the sentence with a steady voice, reiterating the plea agreement. 20 years to life for aggravated murder. 3 additional years for the use of a firearm. Served consecutively. Parole eligibility after 23 years. There is no guarantee of release, he clarified. Only the possibility should the parole board deem it just.
And not provide any unnecessary burden on state or local resources. A period of incarceration is certainly necessary due to the nature of the offense and the loss that's suffered by all of the victims in this matter. I'm sentencing you to a period of 20 years to life on count 1, aggravated murder and unclassified felony. In addition, that sentence will run consecutive to the 3-year firearm specification, which is attached to that count 1. That firearm specification 3-year sentence must be served first, it must be consecutive, and it is in fact mandatory. This will make you eligible for parole, which there's no guarantee of that, at the earliest at 23 years, but you could serve up to life in prison for this matter. Do you understand all of that, Ms. Paschal?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Then looking directly at Tariana, he added, "You took a father from his children, a son from his mother, a man who was working to be better. Your actions didn't just end a life, they shattered many." As the gavel fell, the courtroom didn't erupt. There was no applause, no relief. Just a soft exhale from Mary as she reached down and hugged her daughter, who sat quiet beside her, holding a photo of her dad. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters asked questions, but the family said nothing. For them, the story wasn't over. Not really. It would live in the quiet spaces of their days, in birthdays missed and graduations unshared, in empty chairs, in bedtime stories left unfinished. Inside the prison van, Tariana was led away. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. Justice had been done. But peace? That would take far longer to arrive. The story of Dr. Todd Morgan is not just a tale of murder. It is a haunting reminder of how thin the veil can be between order and chaos, between safety and vulnerability. It shows us how quickly lives can be shattered, not only by a bullet, but by a decision, a stranger, a secret. He was a father, a teacher, a man trying to get better. He struggled, yes. He made mistakes, but he was present. He showed up for his children. He held down his job. He was climbing out of the fog when the shadows reached back and pulled him under. For Todd's family, the tragedy doesn't end with the sentencing. Grief isn't bound by court dates or legal outcomes. It stretches on. In the morning school runs now done alone, in the empty side of the bed, in the phone calls never made again. His daughter, only 4 when she waited at school for the father who would never come, will grow up with more questions than answers. The questions remain. Was it premeditated? Was it revenge, robbery, or something else entirely? We may never know. Tariana Paschal never explained, never confessed beyond a quiet, "I'm sorry." Her silence leaves a void that no evidence can fill. But this case also speaks to the quiet triumph of investigative work. A single accidental 911 call became the thread that unraveled everything. Technology, phones, GPS, digital payments, even social media did what human memory and denial could not. It told the truth. Through methodical police work and unrelenting digital forensics, a suspect who tried to vanish in plain sight was brought to justice. The shell casings, the footprints, the metadata, each one a breadcrumb. Together, they led to conviction. The quiet neighborhood of Hudson, Ohio, will never be the same. Neighbors who once waved from porches now lock their doors tighter. The town carries the stain of the unimaginable. But they also remember Todd, the real Todd, the professor with a warm smile, the dad who danced in the living room with his kids, the man who was trying. This documentary has traced his final hours, not to glorify the darkness, but to honor the light he left behind, and to remind all of us, even in small towns and quiet homes, darkness can knock. Often it already knows the way in. Before we close, we want to thank you for walking this journey with us. True crime isn't just about what happened. It's about why it happened and what we can learn from it. If this story moved you, if it left you thinking, share it. Talk about it. Remember the name Todd Morgan. And if you want to see more stories that dig deep, that tell the truth without compromise, help us keep going. On a freezing night in Racine, Wisconsin, Saturday, January the 31st, 2004, a chilling 911 call came in. A woman trapped inside a garbage can filled with snow managed to call for help. She whispered that her ex-husband was trying to kill her. As she lay imprisoned in his truck, not knowing where he was taking her, the freezing cold snow pressed around her. She feared for her life. This woman was Terry Gendusa. Born in the mid-60s in Wisconsin, Terry had a happy childhood in a stable family. She was close to her 3 siblings, lively and full of energy. After high school, Terry attended the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. It was here, through mutual friends, that she first met David Larson in 1983. They often hung out with friends at local pubs, enjoying each other's company. However, their relationship remained purely platonic. It wasn't until 1995, 12 years later, that Terry and David reconnected. By then, Terry had just ended a long-term relationship, and David had recently left the Marine Corps. Both were looking for something serious. Having known each other for years, it felt like the perfect match on paper. They shared a history, and both were ready to settle down. However, Terry later admitted she rushed into the relationship. She felt her biological clock ticking and ignored some serious red flags. David had a bad temper and a clear disdain for women, which she overlooked. Though his anger made her uncomfortable, it was never directed at her, at first. He was more of a Karen toward hospitality workers like waiters, clerks, and cashiers. Terry was embarrassed by his behavior, but never imagined that one day she would be on the receiving end of his rage. For a while, Terry wasn't directly affected by Dave's troubling behavior, but things changed quickly after they married in April 1996. Just 4 days into their honeymoon in Hawaii, Dave hit Terry for the first time. His reason? He didn't like what she was wearing. When she refused to change, he struck her, declaring that now they were married, she had to do whatever he said. He even told her she was bought and paid for. After returning home, there were brief moments of calm, but with someone like Dave, the good times were always followed by dark ones. His behavior grew more abusive over time, both verbally and physically. Dave believed that their marriage was a contract in which Terry had agreed to follow every rule he set. To him, failing to comply meant she deserved punishment, often through extreme violence. Throughout their marriage, Terry tried to leave Dave about 5 times. She would return only when he promised to seek marriage counseling or attend anger management classes. However, once things calmed down, he refused to follow through on those promises, trapping her in a violent cycle. It's important to avoid judging Terry for her decisions. Victims of domestic violence often face complicated situations, and Terry was no exception. Dave controlled every aspect of her life. He made her leave her job, cut her off from her friends, and stripped her of any financial freedom. He forced her to surrender possession of her car, took her car, which was registered in her name, and denied her any access to financial details. Terry was given $25 a week for her expenses, and she had to balance it and show the receipts to the authorities as proof. As Terry feared that there were no ways to escape from the power of her husband, she decided to accept all his requirements, follow all his orders, and attempt to do everything he wanted as well as possible. Persistent use wears off self-esteem, and the individual feels that they are at fault for the circumstance which they are not. Terry finally came to the conclusion that it does not matter how much she tried to be the ideal wife for Dave. He would always have something wrong with her. He would use any reason to lash out, holding her responsible for his own frustrations. By the time Terry had this realization and began planning to leave, she found out she was pregnant. She was thrilled to become a mother but knew the environment wasn't ideal for raising a child. Still, she hoped that becoming a father might change Dave for the better. While Dave did treat Terry better during her pregnancy, things quickly reverted after their daughter Amanda was born in 1997. Their second daughter Holly was born in 1999. But even the joy of becoming a father couldn't change Dave. Finally, during a fight in late 1999, Terry reached her breaking point. Accounts differ on what exactly happened. Either Dave screamed at their oldest daughter Amanda or pushed Terry while she was holding Holly. But one thing was clear: he had crossed a line by involving their children. Realizing she couldn't let her children grow up in such an environment, Terry decided to leave for good. She packed up what she could, took the girls, and went to a women's shelter while filing for divorce. But Dave wasn't going down without a fight. He stalled the proceedings, refused to provide documents, and even smeared Terry's name. He was held in contempt of court for dragging his feet, thinking he could manipulate the outcome in his favor. However, his attempts to badmouth Terry, cuss out judges, and defy his lawyer backfired. Finally, on January 31, 2001, Terry was granted the divorce, severing her ties with Dave after 3 long and harrowing years. Even after their divorce was finalized, Dave remained in Terry's life. Despite Terry's accounts of her traumatic marriage, a judge awarded joint custody of their daughters. This meant that Terry still had to see the man who had terrorized her during court-ordered custody exchanges. Dave insisted that these exchanges take place at his home, refusing to meet in public despite Terry's pleas. It's unclear how he was able to dictate these terms, but it forced Terry to regularly confront the past she desperately wanted to escape. This constant reminder of her nightmare left Terry convinced that she would never date or marry again. She wanted to focus solely on herself and her daughters. But as they say, love finds you when you least expect it. Just before her divorce, Terry joined the Bel Canto Community Chorus, where she met Nick Nicolai. Nick was immediately drawn to Terry, but he respected her space during her divorce. Over time, their friendship blossomed into romance. Nick was kind, respectful, and empathetic to everything Terry had endured. He also embraced her daughters wholeheartedly, treating them as his own. By May 2001, Terry and Nick officially started dating, and after 2.5 years, they married in October 2003. Terry finally felt like she had the stable and loving family she had always dreamed of. But how did Dave feel about this? Not great. In his mind, despite the finalized divorce, he and Terry were still married in the eyes of God. He believed Terry had betrayed him and God's will by remarrying. This led Dave into blaming Terry for the disruption of the family and vowed to make her suffer for it. On the day they left the court after the divorce had been granted, he told her that one day she would wish that she had not divorced him. Terry, although already being afraid of her ex-husband at this point, believed she had already suffered the worst that he could bring upon her. Unknown to her, that was not the end of it, for Dave had more in store for her. All Terry wanted was to leave that life behind her, and she was doing just that. She had found a new husband who was such a nice man, she had started to try and rebuild her career. And the day before, on January 30th, 2004, she and Nick found out that they were going to have their own child. They were happy, as were Holly and Amanda, who had been longing for a new addition in the family. Terry and Nick could not wait to see the girls the next day to tell them and celebrate with them back from Dave. Saturday, January 31st, 2004, marked the 3-year anniversary of Terry and Dave's finalized divorce. It was a bitterly cold day in Wisconsin. Freezing temperatures, high winds, and snow covered the ground. People described the weather as so frigid it made breathing difficult. But the cold was the least of Terry's concerns. All she could think about was seeing her daughters and telling them about the new baby. As she prepared to pick up the girls from Dave's, Nick offered to go with her. However, Terry declined, knowing that his presence could make things even more tense with Dave. She wanted to avoid any unnecessary confrontation. On her way to his house, she called Dave to let him know when she would arrive. But when she got there around 10 a.m., Dave informed her that the girls weren't ready yet. Annoyed but not wanting to argue, she asked him to hurry, deciding to wait outside in the freezing cold. For almost 20 minutes, Terry paced the driveway, trying to keep warm. Finally, Dave opened the door, but her daughters were nowhere in sight. Instead, Dave came out and told her that the girls were hiding and wanted her to come inside to find them. Immediately, Terry felt uneasy. Dave hadn't allowed her into his house since the day she left him, so his sudden invitation was suspicious. But the bitter cold and her desire not to disappoint her daughters overcame her doubts. She brushed off her suspicions and entered the house, playfully calling out for her daughters as she made her way through. Almost instantly, her uneasy feeling turned to panic. Terry's worst fears were confirmed the moment she felt a searing blow to her head. She didn't realize it immediately, but her ex-husband, Dave, had struck her with a baseball bat. As she collapsed to the floor, Dave continued his assault, striking her repeatedly while yelling, "You always said I was abusing you. Now you can see what abuse really is." He hit her upwards of 20 times until she blacked out. When she regained consciousness, she found Dave binding her with duct tape from head to toe. Panic set in as Terry realized he had something terrible in mind. Desperate, she tried to bargain with him, promising to drop their custody battle and child support, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. Dave was instead fixated on a twisted idea. At some point while he was taping her ankles, her pants had come down, and he became irrationally convinced that Terry had done this deliberately to make him look bad, further proof of his deceived mindset. Once he'd finished binding her, he placed her bruised, bleeding body into a trash can, packed it with snow, and loaded it into the back of his truck. On one of the coldest days in Wisconsin, he left her half naked, beaten, and covered in snow, showing no mercy. Despite the horrendous situation, Terry clung to a sliver of hope. In his frenzy, Dave had overlooked one crucial detail. Terry still had her cell phone in her jacket pocket. Though her face was covered with duct tape and swollen so badly that she couldn't open her eyes, she managed to break free from the tape around her wrists. Somehow, she wiggled her phone out of her pocket and dialed 911. Knowing it would be nearly impossible to speak clearly, Terry repeatedly relayed Dave's address to the operator over and over again. Her efforts paid off as it was enough to get the police and rescue dispatched to the scene. By the time they arrived, however, Dave had already loaded Holly and Amanda into his truck and left the house. As the police responded to Terry's call, they unknowingly drove right past Dave's truck, with Terry still bound and hidden in the back. Her vehicle was hitched to the truck, and Terry could hear the sirens fade into the distance. A feeling of defeat washed over her. It seemed they had missed their one chance to save her life. When officers arrived at Dave's home, they were under the impression that someone inside was in distress. With no answer at the door, they forced their way in, only to find the house empty. Meanwhile, neighbors started gathering, and through their questions, the police quickly learned about Dave and Terry's troubled history. It didn't take long for them to realize they were dealing with something far more serious than they had anticipated. However, they had no clear idea of what exactly had transpired. Terry, meanwhile, was fading in and out of consciousness. Despite her critical state, she managed to call her husband Nick, struggling through the duct tape that covered her face to explain what had happened. Nick was horrified but knew that the best way to help her was to quickly alert the police. So they both hung up and called 911 again. Nick reached the same Racine County Dispatch Center that had received Terry's first call, and the pieces began to fall into place for the police at Dave's residence. They started to see the full, grim picture of the situation. Terry's second call, however, was less successful. By this time, Dave had crossed into Milwaukee County, and the dispatcher there was unaware of the danger Terry was in. Listening to the call, it becomes clear that the severity of the situation was not fully understood by the new dispatcher. It's understandable that 911 dispatchers need to emotionally disconnect to cope with their high-stress jobs. But there is a crucial difference between emotional disconnection for self-preservation and a blatant disregard for the well-being of the caller. In this case, it was unfortunately the second, contributing to the continued risk Terry faced. Terry's second 911 call left many stunned and angered. The operator apparently thought it was a prank, an explanation that hardly justifies her dismissive and venomous tone. For anyone listening to Terry's voice on that call, it was painfully obvious that something was terribly wrong. Yet instead of compassion or urgency, Terry was met with skepticism and dismissal. Many sources covering this case choose to gloss over this call, but it remains a glaring example of a critical failure in what should have been a lifeline for Terry. Despite the horrifying situation she was enduring, Terry continued to fight for her life. When she regained consciousness and realized they were still moving, she stuck her hand out of the garbage can, waving it desperately in hopes of attracting the attention of a passing driver. Unfortunately, it was Dave who noticed. Infuriated by her attempt to save herself, he pulled over, struck her with the bat once more, and threatened to shoot her if she tried anything else. As if that weren't enough, her cell phone rang, and Dave snatched away her one link to the outside world. She was now completely isolated. Realizing her situation was terrible, Terry made the decision to play dead, hoping to convince Dave that she was no longer a threat. As he unloaded the trash can from the truck, she lay motionless, faking death. Dave's plan was to leave her for dead in a storage locker. He wheeled the trash can into the unit, duct taped it shut, pushed it into a corner, and piled boxes on top of it to ensure she was completely trapped. He then left, slamming the metal roll-up door behind him, sealing Terry into what he believed would be her tomb. Meanwhile, the police were ramping up their efforts back at Dave's house. With time running out, they knew they had to act quickly despite having little to go on. They issued Amber Alerts for Holly and Amanda, put out all points bulletins for Dave and Terry's vehicles, and attempted to ping their cell phones. They also conducted a more thorough search of Dave's home, which proved challenging due to the extreme hoarding conditions. The house was filled with old food, dirty dishes, laundry scattered on the floor, and clutter everywhere, with narrow walkways just barely allowing navigation through the space. Would the police piece together enough information in time to save Terry? Or had they already missed their only chance? During their search through Dave's chaotic house, the police made a disturbing discovery. They found Terry's pants, covered in duct tape and blood, along with a massive blood stain on the carpet. The size of the stain suggested that whoever it belonged to, presumably Terry, was in critical condition. Time was clearly running out. If they didn't find her soon, they feared the worst. Despite their best efforts to stay focused on promising leads, every direction seemed to result in dead ends. By nightfall, the police expanded their search to include every place Dave had ever been, hoping something would finally break. This turned out to be a fortunate decision. As luck would have it, they spotted Dave heading to work, casually driving as if nothing had happened. They quickly pulled him over, anticipating a confrontation with a violent and unpredictable man. But when they approached, they found Dave remarkably calm, collected, and most importantly, alone. Terry and her daughters were nowhere in sight. Dave played the role of the bewildered ex-husband to perfection. He acted completely unaware of why the police were so eager to find him. The officers decided to play along, taking a non-confrontational approach. They invited him to the station, saying they had a few questions to clear up some confusion. Surprisingly, Dave agreed without resistance. In the interview room, it became clear that Dave felt untouchable. His arrogance was palpable. Within a few minutes, he told the police that Holly and Amanda were safe at his girlfriend's house. He claimed that he had dropped them off because Terry had failed to pick them up that morning. Then Dave launched into a lengthy tirade about how terrible Terry was, insisting she was the real villain in their story. He ranted about how she had put him through hell for years, completely oblivious to the gravity of his situation. The police let him talk, knowing that sometimes the best way to uncover the truth is to let someone lie until they trap themselves. As Dave tried to paint an innocent picture of his day, he began to create inconsistencies. He was setting the stage for his own downfall. Dave sat down and began recounting his day, painting a picture of a devoted father who had made breakfast for his daughters and patiently waited for Terry to pick them up. According to him, he had waited until 11:30 a.m. before finally giving up and taking the girls to his girlfriend's house. He seemed confident in his story. Unfortunately for him, that one detail would be his undoing. Terry's first 911 call had been placed at 10:57 a.m., and the police had responded to Dave's house by 11:03 a.m., a full 27 minutes before the 11:30 a.m. that Dave claimed he had left. And when the police arrived, Dave wasn't there. This contradiction was a glaring hole in his story. Once they caught him in this lie, the police didn't hold back. They confronted Dave with everything they had: the blood found in his house, Terry's pants, the 911 calls. They hammered him with the mountain of evidence, and as they did, they noticed something shocking. Dave was sitting there calmly answering their questions while wearing pants stained with Terry's blood. He hadn't even realized it. When the detectives pointed this out, Dave scrambled. He tried to change his story, attempting to backpedal as fast as he could. He created a new tale on the spot. He claimed that while packing his daughter's school bags that morning, Terry had somehow snuck into his house, dropped her pants, and attacked him with a hammer. He said that he saw her just in time and was forced to immobilize her with a baseball bat in self-defense. From there, he claimed he blacked out and had no idea what happened next or where Terry was. The detectives weren't buying it. They reminded Dave that it was bitterly cold outside and that if Terry was still alive, time was running out. They appealed to any remaining shred of humanity he might have had, asking him to think of his daughters. But Dave just smiled, yawned, and said he needed a break. He was, in essence, telling them that no matter what, he was determined to ensure that Terry would be dead by the time she was found. It was a shocking display of cold-heartedness. Despite being caught red-handed, literally, Dave showed no concern for Terry's life. His animosity toward her was so intense that he was willing to sacrifice himself just to make sure she suffered. The detectives realized they were dealing with someone who would rather go down for murder than give up his twisted sense of vengeance. Could the investigators find Terry in time despite Dave's stubborn silence? Or would Dave's twisted resolve seal her fate? During the interrogation, Dave requested a break, which due to legal protocols had to be granted to avoid the interrogation being considered coercive. While investigators were obligated to comply, this break turned out to be advantageous for them. While examining Dave's personal belongings, investigators stumbled upon a significant clue. Among the clutter of his wallet, which contained business cards and receipts from various places, they found a business card for his storage facility located in Wheeling, Illinois, nearly 60 miles from Dave's home in Wisconsin. This seemed out of place and suspicious, as it was unusual for someone to store belongings so far from home. Despite the possibility of innocent explanations, time was of the essence. Desperation led the investigators to follow up on this lead. They contacted the storage facility and learned that Dave had indeed rented a unit there and had accessed it just hours after Terry's disappearance. This discovery intensified their suspicion, and they decided to investigate further. The facility attendant was asked to check the storage unit for anything unusual. After a tense wait, the attendant reported hearing sounds that suggested someone might be inside. This was a critical moment. Investigators instructed the attendant to call local law enforcement immediately, and Racine County Police set out for Wheeling, knowing that every second counted. As the Wheeling police arrived at the facility, they were prepared with a pry bar to force their way into Dave's storage unit. The urgency was visible, with the hope that this lead was not a dead end. Upon entering the unit, their initial optimism lowered as they observed only boxes, shelves, and a trash can. It was the trash can that ultimately caught their attention. It was duct taped shut, which led them to believe that if Terry was in the storage unit, she would be inside this trash can. The officers proceeded with caution, removing the tape and opening the lid. Inside, they found Terry, bound with duct tape, bloodied, and barely alive. She was curled up in a fetal position, frostbitten, and in a state of severe hypothermia, with her body temperature having dropped to 86 degrees. Despite her terrible condition, having survived 27 hours in such horrific circumstances, Terry's survival was nothing short of miraculous. She had lost a significant amount of blood, suffered severe frostbite, and was in a critical state physically and mentally. But what wasn't immediately apparent was the full extent of her internal injuries. Her blood pressure and respiratory rate were dangerously slow, and her kidneys were failing. Despite these grave conditions, Terry was rushed to the hospital on February 1, 2004. Her medical team was initially not sure about her chances of survival, but against all odds, Terry began a slow but remarkable recovery over nearly 2 months. Although she lost all 10 toes to frostbite and tragically miscarried her and Nick's baby, her survival was proof of her strength and resilience. Dave Larson was tried and convicted on multiple charges, including attempted murder, kidnapping, obstructing child custody, and interstate domestic violence. He is currently serving a life sentence. In 2010, he attempted to appeal his conviction, claiming double jeopardy, but the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals rejected his claim. Determined, Dave tried to escape from prison using a complex plan involving a fake medical emergency, but he was unsuccessful. In addition to his prison sentence, Wisconsin ordered Dave to pay $3.4 million in restitution to Terry, as well as $300,000 to Nick, Amanda, and Holly. Dave's attempt to avoid this financial obligation by filing for bankruptcy was denied, as his debts were deemed the result of his own malicious actions. Dave continued to make legal attempts to involve himself in Terry's life, filing numerous requests for visitation with his daughters and for reductions in child support payments. These requests were consistently denied. Now, as Holly and Amanda are both in their 20s, Dave's ties to Terry are officially severed. Despite the trauma Dave inflicted on her, Terry has shown remarkable strength and forgiveness. She views Dave as the true victim of his actions, reflecting a profound glass-half-full mindset. Terry and Nick welcomed a son following her recovery. Today, Terry works as a public speaker, advocating for victims' rights and educating others on how to escape abusive relationships. She has played a significant role in drafting laws like the Wisconsin SAFE Act and Marcy's Law, and partners with Generations Against Bullying. Terry has truly become a powerful force for change and support for victims.
If their family members are watching this right now, what do you say to them? Look into the camera right now, and if they're watching, what do you say to them?
I'm sorry for their loss, and I hope that you can find it in your heart to forgive me. And I'm so sorry, and I never wanted this to happen.
In the serene, picturesque town of Jupiter, Florida, the rhythm of daily life was about to be upended in the most unimaginable way. The quiet coastal community was accustomed to peaceful evenings, with its sun-kissed shores and friendly residents. For Austin Harriff, a 19-year-old sophomore at Florida State University, the night of August 15, 2016, started like any other.
How's it going, guys? Nothing in life worth having is easy. Remember that, guys. You remember that? You remember that?
Known for his easygoing demeanor, Austin was a typical college student, good-natured, sociable, and always looking to enjoy life. Yet behind this persona, something darker was brewing in Austin's mind. That evening, Austin casually told his family he was going to hang out with friends, but there was a strange tension in the air.
Young man beating up a woman across the street.
Okay, are they outside or in a house?
It's in a garage.
Okay, can you tell if he has any weapons?
I think he had a knife, but I'm not positive.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to perform Hound Dog by Elvis Esquire Presley. You know, the king. Alright, thank you very much, and prepare to listen.
His words seemed off, as though he were hiding something. His mother, speaking about the hours before the incident, later recalled that Austin was acting oddly, even though nothing overtly alarming had happened. After a few hours with no word from him, his family grew concerned.
You called 911 later on that night, and you said that he was missing.
It was not like him to disappear without so much as a text. A simple, "I'm okay," was something they had come to expect. But on this night, that reassurance was missing. By the time the sun had set, the Harriff family's worst nightmare was beginning to unfold.
Hello, bros. It's Austy Frosty, man, and today I want to talk about personal trainers and why you should be cautious when following a personal trainer. First off, a personal trainer doesn't have the same body as you. That's the first point, okay? Personal trainers are themselves, and they found out what worked for them. They went through the trial and error. They did their research. And a lot of them don't even look good, man. That's the funny part, man. You gotta listen to the personal trainer's advice. But you gotta find your way too, man. You gotta learn for yourself. You can't just hope and pray that someone is just gonna give you all the resources that you need, because it's just not gonna happen, man.
Austin Harroff, a 19-year-old former Florida State University student, had been experiencing a downward spiral in his life. Once described as a gentle and well-behaved young man with good grades, Harroff's behavior had become increasingly erratic in the weeks leading up to that fateful night.
I'm not a scientist, bro. But I know how stuff works. I mean, you can call me God if you want to. The God of fitness.
His parents, Mina and Wade Harroff, had grown concerned about his mental state and were in the process of arranging a mental health evaluation for him.
Well, how's life?
It's tough on us, Austin. We're not used to this.
Am I going to be okay?
Yeah, you're going to be okay.
How's
Are they
Jupiter?
taking care? Are you taking your medicines?
Yeah, I'm taking my medicine.
You need to get a Bible, Austin.
I know. I asked for one.
Do you have one?
Are you getting me a therapist or anything?
Yes, I plan on it.
Little did they know, their son was on the brink of committing a heinous crime that would leave a community in shock and forever change the lives of those involved. At 9 p.m., as Austin's family began to worry about his whereabouts, an entirely different nightmare was taking place just down the street. John Stevens and his fiancée, Michelle Miskin, were preparing for bed. It was a typical Tuesday night for the couple, who lived in a modest, comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood. They had no reason to suspect that this peaceful evening would be their last. The night was warm, and the sound of crickets and rustling leaves filled the air. But that calm atmosphere was shattered when, at precisely 9 p.m., a neighbor out walking his dog made a disturbing discovery. As he strolled past the Stevens home, he glanced through the bushes and saw what he first thought was a bizarre and grotesque scene. A young man, hunched over a person on the ground, seemingly engaged in some sort of strange behavior. The more the neighbor looked, the more he realized with horror what was happening. Austin Harroff, a figure he recognized from the neighborhood, was literally gnawing on the face of another human being, Michelle Miskin. The sight of it was so shocking that, for a moment, the neighbor froze in disbelief. Was he seeing this right? Was this a nightmare come to life? This was no random attack. This was something far darker. The neighbor instinctively began rushing toward the scene, his heart pounding in his chest. But as he moved closer, Austin suddenly looked up. His eyes were wide, glazed over in a vacant, almost primal manner. His expression lacked any sign of humanity, replaced instead by an eerie emptiness. There was no recognition, no sense of remorse, just an unfeeling stare. A chill ran down the neighbor's spine as he realized the danger he was in. Austin, now completely disconnected from any semblance of rationality, stood up slowly, his body tense and rigid. Without a word, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife. It gleamed menacingly in the dim light of the street lamp above them. "Stay back!" the neighbor shouted, trying to retreat, but it was too late. Austin moved with lightning speed, closing the distance between them. The knife came down in a swift, erratic motion. The neighbor instinctively raised his arms to protect himself, but it wasn't enough. He felt the sharp sting of the blade slice across his forearm. Blood poured from the wound, soaking his clothes, but he didn't stop. Every ounce of adrenaline in his body screamed at him to run, to escape before it was too late. "Help! Someone, please!" he yelled, his voice breaking. In his panic, the neighbor staggered backward, trying desperately to find safety. But Austin followed, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. Every time the neighbor thought he had gained distance, Austin would advance again, his eyes never leaving him. The neighbor managed to stumble backward to the corner of the street, where he collapsed into the arms of another neighbor, gasping for breath. He's eating her face, he managed to choke out. His words seemed to make no sense, yet the horror of what he had witnessed was undeniable. The brutal, senseless attack would haunt him for the rest of his life. The 911 call that followed was raw, panicked, and filled with confusion. The neighbor, his voice shaking, barely managed to explain the horror he had just witnessed.
Don't open that. Don't open that.
Fire rescue, what's your address?
Young man beating up a woman across the street.
Okay, are they outside or in a house?
It's in a garage.
Okay, can you tell if he has any weapons?
I think he had a knife, but I'm not positive.
Okay, can you tell if she's injured or he's injured?
Say again?
Are either of them injured? Can you tell from where you are?
Yes, there's a girl laying on the ground. He beat her up. I ran over there. I'm bleeding profusely here at the moment.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
All right, can you tell if she's conscious or is she unconscious?
Say again?
Can you tell if she's conscious?
No, it does not appear so, no.
Okay, and what kind of injuries do you have?
I've been stabbed in the back.
With a knife? And where is he? Is he
I think
in the area
garage, right across the street from my house.
There's a man attacking a woman, he cried, barely able to catch his breath. I don't know him. He's stabbing me. His words were frantic. Each one rushed in an attempt to get help before it was too late.
Sir, what did the guy look like? Was he white, black, Hispanic?
He is white.
You know how old he is?
About 25 years old.
And what was he wearing?
Shorts and a t-shirt.
Do you know who he is?
I have no idea.
Does he live at that house, or?
No, he does not.
And you said you definitely saw a knife, and that's what he hit you with in the back?
No, I did not see it, but my wife's looking at my back, and it appears I got punctured.
Yes, Dad. In the neck, in the head, three puncture wounds.
Okay, we got units en route, okay?
Okay.
All right, just call us back if anything changes, all right?
All right, I'm bleeding pretty bad. So
okay, we got an ambulance and everybody en route. Just stay right there and stay calm, okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right.
The operator, trained to stay calm in chaotic situations, tried to reassure him, but the terror in the man's voice was impossible to ignore. Stay with me, sir. I need you to tell me exactly what you saw. Is the attacker still there? The operator asked. There was a pause, a long, drawn-out silence, before the neighbor's trembling voice came through again. He's eating her face. Please, hurry, please. The operator's voice grew more urgent as they gathered as much information as possible, but there was little they could do from their end, other than dispatch officers and paramedics to the scene. As the minutes passed, the situation deteriorated further. The sounds of police sirens grew closer, but with each second that passed, the hope of saving Michelle faded. The community, which had once been a tranquil haven, was now grappling with the reality of a crime so violent and unthinkable that it felt like a scene straight out of a horror movie. In the home of John Stevens and Michelle Miskin, the scene was utterly horrific. The initial attack was brutal, but the extent of Michelle's injuries was more gruesome than anyone could have imagined. The marks left by Austin were savage. Her face, once a defining feature of her beauty, had been torn apart, torn open with unnatural force. John, who had tried to protect her, bore the brunt of the attack as well. His body was found not far from Michelle's, and the sheer violence of the assault left no room for survival. The first responders arrived at the scene to find a bloodbath. No attempt at understanding the brutality could have prepared them for the carnage they encountered. Michelle was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, but the injuries were too extensive. The doctors fought desperately to save her, but Michelle succumbed to her injuries hours later. John's death was confirmed almost immediately. Neighbors, friends, and even the police, still in shock, had difficulty processing the violent, random act that had claimed 2 lives. John and Michelle had been pillars of the community, generous, kind, and well-liked by all. They had no enemies. No one could fathom why they were chosen to be the victims of such a horrific crime. The investigation into the horrific murders of John Stevens and Michelle Miskin began immediately after the 911 call was made. What initially seemed like an ordinary case quickly spiraled into something far more sinister. When police arrived at the scene, they found John Stevens' body near the front door, brutally attacked with signs of extreme violence. Michelle Miskin's body was discovered in a nearby room, also showing similar signs of a savage assault. Both victims had been mauled beyond recognition, their injuries so severe that it was unclear at first how they had died. As investigators combed through the crime scene, the initial shock began to give way to more chilling questions. What had driven a young man, seemingly out of nowhere, to commit such a violent and senseless act? The answer came in pieces. Austin Harruff, the 19-year-old suspect, was soon identified as the person responsible for the murders. His location was quickly traced, and he was found near the scene, incoherent and covered in blood, disoriented but seemingly unaware of the magnitude of his actions. When police tried to question Austin, they were met with bizarre responses. He appeared confused and out of touch with reality, with no recollection of the events leading to the deaths of his parents' friends. He had been acting strangely in the days leading up to the murders, withdrawn, erratic, and even reportedly hearing voices. Family members told authorities that Austin had been suffering from mental health issues, but no one could have predicted that it would escalate to such violence. As the investigation unfolded, it was revealed that Austin had been using a combination of drugs, including hallucinogens like flakka, a synthetic stimulant known to cause extreme aggression and delusions in those who take it. However, the defense team later argued that Austin's mental state was significantly compromised by his underlying mental illness, not just drug use. They suggested that he might have been in the midst of a psychotic episode triggered by the drugs, but with an underlying, undiagnosed mental disorder exacerbating the situation. The evidence, including Austin's erratic behavior and incoherent statements to police, suggested a level of mental disturbance that would later become a central element in his defense. Investigators also uncovered disturbing texts and social media posts in the days before the attack, where Austin had expressed feelings of paranoia and the belief that he was being controlled by dark forces. The chilling aspect of this investigation was how Austin seemed to have disconnected from reality entirely, and it raised more questions about his mental health history. Forensic experts confirmed the brutal nature of the crime, stating that the injuries inflicted on the victims were not just random acts of violence, but appeared to be motivated by a deep-seated rage. The mutilation of the bodies was unlike anything seen in typical violent crimes. Investigators were left wondering if Austin had planned this attack or if it was a moment of uncontrollable insanity. They would later have to reconcile Austin's actions with his psychological state, as the line between murder and mental illness became increasingly blurred. The case prompted a wave of local and national attention, as the details of the investigation and the young man's mental health struggles were revealed. For the community of Jupiter, the investigation's conclusion was both heartbreaking and unsettling. How could someone so young, with so much promise, spiral into such violence? The question would linger long after the investigation ended. As Austin was escorted to the police station, his erratic behavior only deepened the mystery. His mind appeared to be miles away, lost in some unknown fog. His family, shocked and heartbroken by what their son had done, began to come forward with more information. They explained that Austin had been battling mental health issues for years, although he had never shown signs of being violent. His mother, in particular, seemed to struggle with understanding what had happened. She explained that just days before the incident, Austin had been unusually withdrawn, but had seemed perfectly normal otherwise. He had no history of criminal behavior, no signs of violence in his past.
You called 911 later on that night, and you said that he was missing.
Well, I guess when he took off the second time, they called me. I don't know when they called me and said, "Is Austin there?" And I said, "No. What happened?" Well, he took off again.
You mentioned on your 911 call that he's acting schizophrenic. Is there any history in your family of schizophrenia on your side of the family? Any sign of mental illness on your side of the family?
I mean, we always teased that my brother was,
but did he ever get treated?
No.
No medicine? What about your son? Did you ever treat him for any?
No.
No? Okay. Also, in your 911 call, they asked you if he's on drugs, and you had mentioned that, yes, he has been on drugs, but you don't know if he's been on drugs lately. Do you know what kind of drugs he was on?
I mean, I know he did marijuana.
Okay.
And
did he do an excessive amount, or was it just
Not-
social, if you could even call it social? Or,
I don't know.
You don't know?
I mean,
Okay.
he hung out in his room.
okay.
So,
Dad said that about 2 months ago he also found him doing mushrooms. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know if anybody found him doing mushrooms.
Your son, how was he as a kid? I mean, he still is a kid, but was he always happy, joyous,
Yes.
good as far as you could tell? Never got into fights in school? Has he ever been suspended from school or anything? No, nothing. Okay.
Nothing. I mean, it's never really any anger issues. Maybe, you know, Bud and I have our spats and stuff,
Yeah, like
but
any
and he
normal
wants to
kid.
protect me, you
Right.
know.
Sure. Has he ever got physical with Dad, or?
Dad?
Yeah.
No.
No.
But as the police dug deeper into Austin's psychological history, they discovered that he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and had been struggling with his mental health for years. Was this an act of pure madness, or had Austin been suffering from something more sinister, an external influence or mental disturbance that led him to commit the unimaginable? As the court proceedings began, the defense team argued that Austin Harif was not mentally competent to stand trial, given his history of mental illness. His attorney's case was built on the idea that Austin's actions were driven by delusions. He had believed he was under some kind of supernatural influence. He had no recollection of the attack and was unaware of the damage he had caused. The prosecution, however, had a different view.
Well, family spoke very passionately in that courtroom today of many things. They said they still do not buy it, that Austin Harif was insane despite medical professional expert opinions. They just say the result of that night, that deadly night, was the result of Austin being a drug addict. But a judge made his decision today with support from both the state and defense teams that Austin Harif did meet that state criteria to be considered insane, so he will be bypassing prison and headed for treatment.
I hate you. I hate you with every part of my being.
You both said your son acted strangely for weeks leading up to the murders, and you even set up an appointment for him to be evaluated. You should have done your job better, quicker. You should not be purchasing him knives.
The state had an evaluation of Austin, and the state's own expert opined that he was insane at the time. So I think it does a disservice to those seeking mental health treatment, for those struggling with these issues. It is real and it is powerful. The brain is a powerful organ, and that's what this was about.
And of course, we don't know just how much time he might spend in that mental health institution, but we do know that he would never be released or discharged without staff and medical professionals there deeming him to not be a danger to society, to the public. He would also have to go before a judge before any decisions would be made. Reporting live in Mark County, I'm Megan McRoberts, WPTV, News Channel 5.
They painted Austin as someone who had premeditated his actions. They pointed to his behavior before the crime and the gruesome nature of the attack as evidence of malice, not madness. The jury would ultimately be left to decide, was Austin a victim of his mental illness, or was he a cold-blooded killer? The verdict would send shockwaves through the community, and the case would forever be a reminder of the devastating consequences of untreated mental illness. In the wake of the murders, Jupiter was left in shock. The community, so accustomed to tranquility, was now shattered. Neighbors, friends, and family members tried to understand how something so violent and senseless could happen right under their noses. There were endless questions, but no clear answers. How could a young man, once so normal, turn into a killer? How could someone with such a promising future descend into madness? Mental health advocates began to speak out, urging people to be more aware of the signs of mental illness and the importance of seeking help before tragedy strikes. Austin's case was a tragic reminder of how untreated mental disorders could spiral out of control, leading to devastating consequences. For the victims' families, life would never be the same. The Stevens and Miskin families struggled to cope with their unimaginable losses. They would never again see their loved ones, and the haunting images of that night would stay with them forever. The case of Austin Hariff remains a tragic reminder of the devastating consequences of untreated mental illness, particularly when it intersects with violence. In the months and years following the horrific attack, the community of Jupiter, Florida, would slowly rebuild, but the scars of that fateful night lingered in the hearts of those who lived through it. The Stevens and Miskin families, forever changed by their losses, would never forget the two innocent lives taken so brutally. Austin Hariff's journey through the legal system was long and fraught with complexities. The question of whether he should be held fully accountable for his actions continued to spark intense debate. Was he a victim of his mental illness, or was he simply a young man who lost control? The court's decision to eventually commit him to a mental health facility rather than prison underscored the central theme of this case: the struggle between justice and compassion, between accountability and understanding. For some, the verdict seemed a necessary step in recognizing the depth of Austin's suffering. For others, it felt like a failure to acknowledge the severity of his actions. In the years since the crime, mental health awareness has gained prominence in public discourse, largely as a result of tragedies like this one. The tragic case of Austin Hariff brought attention to the importance of early intervention, proper treatment, and stigmatization of mental illness. It highlighted the need for more resources and understanding for individuals facing severe mental health challenges before they spiral into irreversible harm. But no amount of mental health reform could ever undo the tragedy. The Stevens and Miskin families still mourn their loved ones, and the town of Jupiter, once known for its idyllic beaches and quiet streets, will always remember the unspeakable violence that occurred there. For Austin, his future remains uncertain. He may never fully understand what happened that night, but the lives lost can never be forgotten. In the end, this case serves as a chilling example of the fine line between the fragility of the human mind and the irreversible damage it can cause. It is a stark reminder that sometimes the most innocent among us, those who are loved and cherished, can fall victim to forces beyond their control. The journey of Austin Hariff, the families of John Stevens and Michelle Miskin, and the community of Jupiter, Florida, will forever be intertwined in the tragic story of that fateful night, where innocence collided with madness in the most brutal of ways. If you found this case insightful and thought-provoking, please take a moment to like this video to show your support. Share it with friends and family who might be interested in the complexities of criminal cases like this one. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses, real-life case breakdowns, and important stories that deserve to be heard. Your support helps us bring more important topics to light. Thank you for watching.